and good evening. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about today. And I went on just briefly a little bit earlier today, obviously, as news was breaking about Brian Laundrie possible remains being found in the Carlton Reserve. And it's going to be another day where there's so much to talk about. There's so much confusion. And I can't wait to hear your thoughts on that. Just as we're getting started today, would you do me a favor? Would you let me know where are you watching from? Let me know where are you watching from. We have Paranormal Country Hunters. Hello from Stony Point, North Carolina. Hey, are you at work? Usually you're tuning in and you are at work. Moosey says, I cannot wait to get caught up on the story. Well, there's a lot to get caught up on, and I can promise you that's going to happen tonight. Certainly we have a lot to be talking about. We have somebody from Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia, Texas, Illinois, people from all over tuning in today, Florida, Michigan, Winchester, Kentucky. Thank you guys for tuning in. It always blows my mind. St. Pete, Florida, Coles Point, Virginia. It always blows my mind that people begin to tune in literally from all over the world are tuning in. We got, to prove my point, we have right here watching from New Zealand, New York City, Colorado, Reno, Nevada. I went to Reno, Nevada twice this year, believe it or not. Nova Scotia, Canada, New York City, Galesburg, hi from Wales, West Virginia, Michigan. Just super, super excited to have you guys on the stream today. One more thing, if you guys haven't done it, it means a whole lot. It really helps out too. It's free. It's easy to do. If you can hit the like button on the video, that's super helpful. Hit the like button on the video. And if you haven't already, would you consider subscribing to my channel? Angela saying she's from Detroit. Sheila tuning in. We have Kathy from Missouri. We have Flint, Michigan. I've been to Burton, Michigan a few times. There's a church there called New Testament Church that I've spoke at a few times. Jennifer from Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. Hello from Louisiana. Great to have you guys tuning in with us today. And if you guys haven't paid attention, boy, there certainly was a lot that happened today. Walisha says, stay blessed, Tyler, all the way from Wilmington, North Carolina. We got Iowa in the house. We have Lawrenceburg, Kentucky in the house. We have Joan from St. Louis, Missouri. We have Sammy from Canada. We have New Mexico. Man, there are so many places that you guys are tuning in from. Thank you so much. It's a blessing to have you on the stream today. And if you guys didn't see it, if you guys were unable to catch a press conference earlier today, we learned that the FBI has found bodily remains, part of a body that was next to a backpack and also next to a notebook that belonged to Brian Laundrie. And so the FBI, for the first time since they announced that it was Gabby Petito, for the very first time, they announced today a press conference and shared that with us. And so they said it's an ongoing thing. They're going to be out there a lot of times. And so I think one of the things I put in the poll was like, do you think those remains were Brian Laundrie's? And there's 1,500 or so of you guys who have voted so far in that. 70% it's looking like have said, yeah, those likely belong to Brian, and 30% are saying no. So if you guys don't mind, if you haven't done so already, can you vote in that poll just so I can know where are you guys thinking you're at on all of this? Notebook as in a paper notebook. Like I always write in notebooks whenever we're on the stream. So like one of these kinds of notebooks, it's like a notebook like this that I write in whenever we're on the stream. Is kind of the same type of a thing. They were in a physical notebook. We know he was an artist and it was one of his notebooks. It makes me think, did he write anything in the notebook? Because one of the things that the parents were saying whenever he went out there, they were saying, well, is there any type of situation where he would have left a note for the parents? I'm wondering that too. I want to know what was in that. There was a laptop in the backpack too, according to Just So Sweet. So there's so much to learn. I also want to shout out Melanie, Dante, Stan, and Pedro, who joined the Feller fam today on our earlier stream whenever we were streaming the press conference. Thank you guys for joining the press conference. We actually launched just last night. We launched the Feller fam Facebook group. And so for the first time ever, we've had that going today. And it's been a great place to have conversations in depth about all this. And I love hearing everybody's perspective on some of the stuff that's going on. And so just really excited to have the conversation with you guys today. And I wanted to play this video with you because there's been a former FBI agent that we've been spending a bit of time listening to. And I wanted to share with you her thoughts about what was found today. So pay attention to what she says.
All right, well, joining us now to give a little more insight on the case, former FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindoffer. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us tonight. What are your thoughts after this press conference from the FBI? They didn't give a lot of information, but you are a former agent. So what did you take from that?
Well, the biggest news we got today was they found human remains. That was unequivocal in the message that was delivered. And in addition, of course, the backpack and the notebook, which could really bring some closure to some answers everyone as to what exactly happened. But I think the burning question everyone has is, how did the Laundries know to go to this specific location?
Burning question.
And certainly the waters receding and so forth has set this up for exactly what we have before us. Most people in law enforcement believing he's alive, no longer in the reserve, but now he was in the reserve. He was just below these heavy waters. But I'm thinking, because the reserve was opened yesterday, public traffic has been going through there, people walking dogs and so forth, people conducting their own searches, as Brian Inton reported. I believe that somebody that knew the family probably saw something back in there last night, contacted the family.
Yeah.
The family then said, we're going to go out and search, contacted the FBI and the police and said, we're going out there. And that person contacted the Laundries as opposed to contacting law enforcement.
All right. Now, okay, because we also just received a statement from their attorney saying that the Laundrie parents were there when those human remains were found. And again, we already knew that they were the ones who found the items belonging to Brian Laundrie. So again, that would make your theory make sense.
Right. That is the only theory that makes any sense to me as to how these parents could know. Now, if it would have just been the backpack found, I think there would have been a whole bunch of conjecture as to how that was placed there. But with human remains being confirmed, that tells me truly the waters receded. Law enforcement was unable to find anything due to those heavy waters, and that somebody alerted the Laundries to possibly seeing something in that area, and they went from there.
They went from there. Well, okay, because that's the thing. I mean, we know investigators have been out there at this point for 6 weeks. They've had drones, they've had dogs, they've had divers, they've had experts. The area had been closed to the public. Of course, it is again now, but it had been reopened. The day after it's reopened, something is found. I mean, if this were a movie plot, Jennifer, producers would scoff. No one would say this is even feasible. How does this happen?
This is an alignment, and I've seen it before, where circumstantially things just come together in the most unpredictable alignment. And that has been the case really throughout this case itself. And to have it in this way, if you will, not that it's ended, because the FBI is going to continue investigating who committed the homicide of Gabby Petito. But to have it end with finding Brian Laundrie at the exact same place that they've been looking, and very specifically too. I re-looked at a lot of the footage from the training episode, from where Brian Inton was walking. This is the exact same area. And to now have the waters recede enough where it magically appears is certainly, it couldn't be in a movie script.
Do you think Gabby Petito's parents will get the justice that they want, that they've asked for?
I think whenever there is, and I'm assuming that he committed suicide out there.
Wow.
I don't think any family can ever have closure when the person that killed their daughter is not brought to justice, not brought to trial.
Wow.
Former FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindoffer, thank you so much.
So what did you guys think about that? She said a lot. She said a lot of things. And she's a former FBI agent, so she has a whole lot of history in that. I want to shout out Patty, who became a Feather Fan member, and Tim. I saw that super sticker. It made me smile. Thank you for sending that in. What did you guys think about what that former FBI was saying? She's not a member of the media. She's doing an interview, but she's not a member of the media. And so Tamara says things aren't adding up. There's a lot about this story that's confusing. Like, she's like, exactly what she's saying. We couldn't write a movie script about that. Essentially, from her perspective, which she has a lot more hands-on expertise than I do, but she was saying from her perspective, her belief was Brian committed suicide out there. And that was the fear that the Laundrie family, Christopher and Roberta, was saying from the beginning. He said that he was going to do that. A Tactical Bite, thank you for the super chat. Wasn't it said that the parents had already searched when the Mustang was left there? Wouldn't they have looked here then if it was a common location near the parking lot that Brian Laundrie went before the rains came? So there's certainly like a conversation about that definitely needs to be had. And thank you for your super chat, Tactical Bite. I don't know when the rains came versus when Brian Laundrie went out there versus when the family searched. So now we're on a whole new like timeline searching basis. Like, okay, when did he park the car there? When did the rains come for the week? When did the Laundrie family go out there and search? And how did that unfold? Exactly how far is that spot from the parking lot where the Mustang was? These are all things that now we're going to have to start to unpack and learn together. And so you're bringing up great insight for me. You're bringing up great insight for me that I need to be thinking about. And collectively, hopefully, as we work together to find justice for Gabby, and hopefully we're able to do that. I couldn't imagine how the Petito Schmidt family's feeling right now, and I couldn't imagine how the Laundrie family's feeling right now if this is the demise of their son. Channeling the Heart says, which is Barbara, did they find his remains? Honestly, Barbara, they didn't say. The press conference was very, very, very limited on what they said. They said they found remains. The FBI made a press conference. They found remains next to a campsite where Brian Laundrie's notebook was at and his backpack was at. I didn't say campsite, I don't think, but that's in my head what I was picturing. Somebody, Piper, sent me a video that I wanted to show you guys too. It's Roberta, Christopher and Roberta out there searching for and finding something. So I'll just zoom in. So you can see Christopher on the right, Roberta's on the left. They're out here searching, looking for something in particular. It's about a 30-second long video. So I don't know who's filming this. It says Fox News. I don't know if they've attained this video or how it came to pass, but you can see Roberta standing on the left, and then you see Christopher's kind of going deep into the thicket there, and then they come out with this bag. And so that had to be a moment for them. That had to be a moment for them as a family. Can you just imagine that moment right there as a mother and a father making the statement to each other, look, we did find something, here it is. That had to be a hard moment, from my opinion, from just the way that I think about this. Let's see. Christina, thank you for the super chat. The Laundries were caught on video searching without law enforcement. That's what I'm playing right now. And came out with the dry bag without the police. There are articles saying that they looked for police for 30 minutes. Okay, that's interesting, Christina. Again, at this point, like we've been saying the whole time, expect the unexpected. Who knows what's happening? I can't wait for you guys to start calling in tonight because boy, I think we're going to be divided on a lot of things, but there's a lot of angles, guys. There's a lot of angles to be looking at this. Lanky Tor says, thank you, mods, for all you do. We have the best mods on this channel. Thank you guys so much for doing that. And thank you, Lanky, for thinking of them and sending the super chat. Tiffany Goodman says, that notebook will eliminate the parents. He took their secrets to his grave. He was a loose end, unstable. Money is the root to all evil. So another perspective from Tiffany coming out. Okay. I don't know if it's too soon to ask this question, but I think I might make a poll because there it feels like there's a bit of division rising from people's perspective of what's happening here. So I'm just going to ask the question, was this event today staged? And I want to know, yes or no, do you think that this was a real event? Or do you think this was a staged event? Was this event today staged? I would love to hear your guys' perspective on this. A lot of you guys are saying it's staged. A lot of you are saying it wasn't staged. And so as we get to talking about it, I think that there's definitely some things that we're certainly going to know more about. Robert Flynn says maybe a goodbye note was there, Tyler, in the notebook. However, I want to know if there was a waterproof bag that was found there. Was the notebook protected in the waterproof bag, or is the notebook covered in water where you're not going to be able to read the pages? So it's up in the air for me. We got it floating around in the air, because if it wasn't protected by water and something got damaged, we're not going to see a note from him. But if if what the former FBI agent said was true, and he intended to hurt himself, and he had some forethought about it, and he went out and he with a bag and wrote a note and kept it in a waterproof bag because he knew the waters would rise, then that's what happened. If the water he knew the water was going to rise. So if he didn't want people to see what was in the notebook, he knew the waters were going to rise, he wouldn't have done that. So Kim Brooks says this. Thank you, Kim, for the super chat. I think maybe there was something in there that pinged. Maybe that's what they found at AT&T yesterday. Okay, Kim, you've had some time to think. I like the way you're thinking. Maybe AT&T called them and told them they were able to track the phone. Very interesting. Thank you, Kim, for the super chat. I want to know what was happening at the AT&T store. A lot of people are saying, yeah, they're agreeing with what you're saying about that. So Melissa says, maybe. Thank you, Kim, for that super chat. Simple Thing says, if it's not Brian, OMG, that would be a twist. That would be a twist. That'd be a twist of all twists. Another thing that happened today, Dog the Bounty Hunter, I'm on his list. He sent to me today a new update. I posted it to my Twitter account, and it's interesting. Now people are going to start making some statements about Dog, but this was his official statement. I wanted to read it to you guys. He said, we are praying for Gabby's family as yet another day ends with seemingly more questions than answers. Though it does seem the search for Brian may be over, grateful to the authorities who are working to process the evidence as quickly as possible. There will be a time to ask questions such as what was the extent of the Laundrie's involvement? That's what many of you are alluding to. And how exactly did the discovery of the belongings happen today? Did the looming possibility of indictments prompt more cooperation and so forth? But then he says, but now we wait. And so you heard it from Dog the Bounty Hunter right there. He's making a statement, and a little bit of it is a backtrack a little bit from some of the other things that was going on. And so very interesting. We have a Laundrie family attorney, Stephen Bernalino, says that Chris and Roberta and two officers were spread out on either side of the trail. He says Chris found a bag containing some of Brian's items, and officers found the backpack on the other side of the trail, which was the remains. So that's basically the statement for those of you guys that were saying, hey, listen, they were searching there without cops. This was planted evidence. It's basically saying, no, this was just a little snippet. He wasn't out there without cops or whatever. They were just separated. So take it for what it is. It's from Stephen Bertolino. That was the statement. Rick, thank you for the super chat. You say, will Brian's parents receive the bounty for locating Brian? I was wondering that same thing. Imagine that. And if they do, well, you can't make this stuff up. I know it's like the plot to thicken all plots, right? Thank you for the super chat. Macy, thank you for sending a super chat in today too. It means a lot to have your support, but it would definitely be a twist. Stephanie sending this in. Tyler, do you think that maybe Brian Laundrie murdered someone and left his own backpack and journal, thinking law enforcement will not be able to identify the body as Brian or not? It's in the realm of things that are possible, right? Personally, I think that's a low chance, but is it in the realm of things that are possible? Absolutely. What you've seen on the screen now was live footage from Brian Ensign of them at the Carlton Reserve late at night. Zan's Beat says, is it possible with all the bodies being discovered, would Brian have run into a serial killer? The Carlton Reserve has turned up a lot of bodies. That's definitely possible too. And who knows, maybe somebody was angry and found out about what happened and thought he might be out there in the Carlton Reserve and went to go and try to find him. I don't know. Like, again, that's one of those things, like, is it possible? Yeah, it's possible, but how likely is it? I don't know. Probably not super likely, but It is something that is in the realm of possibility, for sure. So again, there's just so much that's coming out about this that we're thinking of. Sammy says, Tyler, he didn't commit suicide. Okay. We're just saying what that former FBI agent said. He'd have contacted family and maybe apologized for his actions and go out a little more dramatic. Okay. That's one perspective on that. I don't know. Like Kim made a statement earlier. She's like, I'm reserving some of my opinions until we learn more information. FBI agent today made a statement saying it's going to be a while before we know anything. My goodness, I'm hoping it's not going to be a while before we learn anything. Becky says maybe the sister got angry. I don't. She was definitely not happy, but I would love to hear a statement from Cassie Laundrie at this point. I don't think we'll get one, but I'd love to hear a statement from her. By the way, if you guys don't mind hitting the like button if you're watching this video, it helps with YouTube and how they do it in all. Larry's saying, hey, they planted all these. So I want to see. I asked the question in the poll, where are we at on that poll? I said, was this event today staged? About 70% of you guys so far are saying it was staged. That's and I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting some people saying that, but I wasn't expecting it to be that. It's now down to 66%. If you guys haven't voted, do me a favor and go vote in that poll. Carol, thank you for joining the Feller fam. Means a lot to have you. We have some great perks, some of our best perks we don't even have listed as a part of the Feller fam. And I can't wait to get into some of that with you guys today. But thank you for joining. Thank you so much for joining. Macy says, staged maybe. I'm with you on this, Macy. Fishy, definitely. Staged, maybe. Fishy, definitely. So I'm with you on that. I can go down that sort of trail with you. Somebody was saying, Tim saying, do narcissists commit suicide? Yeah, they do. A lot of times because they want to determine their own out. That's why they want to determine their own end to their own demise. And so they do. It's probably not super often, but a lot of them do. I've asked that question of psychiatrists who treat them. The best one to ask that question to would be Dr. Ramani. She would know for sure. But yeah, a lot of them do. Ryder Dust says dental records. Brian Laundrie had very unique teeth. He could be totally skeletonized and his teeth could still be there. Okay, interesting. Ron Price says this. His parents went directly to the items less than 24 hours after the public was allowed back in? ? So, all right. Because Christopher Laundrie was searching that area when it was closed not that long ago, right? And then he's going back in. I don't know. You guys are going to have to do some more convincing for me. Tiffany says this, the best magician uses the art of misdirection to arrest, direct, captivate, compel, and control the attention of spectators. Ooh, Tiffany, thank you for the super chat, and you feel very strongly about this. That's very interesting. Marissa, thank you so much for becoming a part of the Feller fam. Excited to have you. Very interesting. Was the stuff waterlogged? That's what I'm trying to get to the bottom of. What was waterlogged and what wasn't waterlogged? We have the chat on slow. I have it on slow. I'm pretty sure I have it on. You have to be a subscriber to be a part of the chat. So Kitty Cat says, definitely fishy. I agree. I'd like to know how long the body was there. So like they said, it was underwater. So that's crazy, right? Just imagine the amount of decomposition that would have taken place. And possibly if an alligator was involved. My friend Nick texted me earlier today. He was like, see, I told you alligator got him. And so I would assume they said there was a large alligator in that area. I would assume that an alligator at least did a little taste test of whatever body it was. And then I want to know what was in that. Notebook. Neil saying that area was about 500 feet from where the car was. Okay, very interesting. That's why I say I want. Neil, can you send me a map if you have one to press@tylerfeller.com? I want to know if you have an overview of the map. I want to know where was the car parked, and then where was that spot at? If somebody can do that for me, I want to put it on the screen. I would make it myself, but I can't do that while I'm on here with you guys. And I was on today. I was busy working, and then I was at church for 5 hours, and then I just got back and hopped on with you guys. So April Thank you for sending the super sticker. Pamela, thank you for sending the super sticker. It means a lot to have your guys' support. It isn't, somebody's making a statement about the lawyer, Stephen Bertolino. I found it extremely interesting that Stephen Bertolino's main form of communication, it feels like, tends to be via text message. It's like, this is a big moment in this case, and he should probably be down there with the family. Carly said Stephen Bertolino just called in to see it. So if send me that, Carly. I want to hear what he was saying. I want to hear what Stephen Bertolino was saying, because that makes more sense. Like, the text message thing doesn't make sense. A call in makes sense. I'm sure it was a very formal sort of a thing, but I want to know. Bad Posture says, if his parents weren't involved, I feel pretty bad. And I'm with you on that. Here's the thing, though, that confuses me. Gabby's parents were reaching out to them multiple times and several calls to 911 trying to get a hold of where Gabby was while Brian was alive. And the Laundrie family was completely uncooperative. And so there's that whole angle too. Brian was still alive and they were refusing to have conversations with the Petito Schmidt family. And so that needs to be definitely unpacked and discussed. That's what Dog the Bounty Hunter was talking about. It's like, there's times to go deep in this. Brenna Leathers, thank you so much for the super chat. You say, I think the backpack / partial remains were placed by someone connected to the Laundries, but with no information about the remains. It's just a theory. I know. Right now, boom, we're like it's almost like the search for Brian may have possibly ended once we get some of that information about the DNA, but the search for answers has just begun. Kim, thank you for the super sticker. Jade says, can't they rule out concern by giving the parents a lie detector test? I don't think the parents are going to do a lie detector test for sure. Ron says the remains could have already been there, and when a friend of Brian Laundrie smelled it, they put the backpack there. Okay, interesting. Sandy V, thank you for the super chat. You say, I don't like the Laundries much, but I do feel sympathy. Losing a child isn't easy. Just for a moment, think about, regardless of the circumstances, it's a difficult situation, and losing a child has to be incredibly difficult. So absolutely, Sandy, I understand what you're saying, and thank you for the super chat. CJ, you say, I'm not sure if you're staged from Wetumpka, Alabama. Thank you, CJ, for the super chat. At this point, I'm still allowing you guys to help dictate how I'm thinking about this, because it's been an emotional roller coaster. Like, the only thing I could say earlier, and I put it in the community section, I made a post, I just said, what a day. I'm having a hard time processing all of it. And so just together, like, man, it's been what a day. And what a day. I'm having a hard time processing it. So I'm learning from you guys how to process it. Shelly, thank you for picking up the Don't Stop book just now. Thank you for doing that. LJD is saying, yeah, what a day. What a day. It's very difficult for me to think about how this situation would have been. You know what I mean? Like, how on earth did it happen? What's the things we don't know? Why did the FBI really think he was in the Carlton Reserve the whole time? Why'd the U.S. Marshals bust down the door of somebody in the Appalachian Trail the other day? Were the Laundrie family being extremely cooperative the whole time, but was advised by their lawyer not to talk, and that's why we don't know anything? So just very interesting. Again, we're going to follow the facts. So we got to go off of what we know to be facts. So that's why I'm saying, when was the car there, which we know when the car was parked there? When did the parents go search? I don't know that part. When did the rains come? So we're going to have to look at the weather patterns for that week. So we're on a journey, Feller fam. We're on a journey, people of this community. Chacha Gomez says faked his own death. We need to know if they found the body, if it was a leg, a finger, bones even. Thank you for the super chat. I'm wondering that same thing. We don't know. What was the parts of the body? What were the parts of the body that they found? I don't know the answer to that. Very, very interesting. And again, I want to stick to the facts. A lot of the other YouTubers are trying to figure out how to process this through. I'm going to be on Grizz's show, Grizzly True Crime, on Friday. Popcorn Planet texted me today, asked me if I would come on Thursday, or I don't know when actually. Asked me if I'd come on and talk a little bit about it. We're all of us in this, that are trying to report the facts, are processing all of this together, trying to figure out. We've been in communication today too, like just as a online community of people who've kind of been in this journey together of trying to figure out how do we process that. Like, we've got to figure out what's going on. James saying nothing you said was fact. James, everything I'm saying, I'm rooting it into fact. Like, I played the press conference. I talked about what they said at the press conference. I talked about the remains that they found. I talked about it being underwater. Like, I don't know what I'm saying. That's not a fact. So, and then at the end of the day, the truth will, we got to pray that the truth will prevail, that the truth will set some people free. April was saying, was the bike being ditched a creditable tip? April, thank you for the super chat. I'm not 100% sure about that tip, if it was credible or not. It's, again, all this stuff's coming out. Macy says, can the parents be compelled by court to tell what they know for the sake of Gabby's family? Absolutely. They absolutely can be. They can be subpoenaed. They can still go to trial on some of this if they needed to, for the sake of all of it. I hope it doesn't get to that. We'll see. Jessica, thank you so much for joining the Feller fam today. I think you're going to love the community that we're building here, and it really is exciting. And it's going to be exciting for a few more days as we're diving into all of this stuff. What we're watching right now is the night view of the Carlton Reserve. This is the night view of the Carlton Reserve. This is some of the area that supposedly, whatever body supposedly Brian Laundrie may have been, this is the area they were searching. So this is what it would have been looking like at night. Kirsty says human remains is usually the term for bones. Okay. Thank you, Kirsty, for that. I was wondering if that's what it was, but they also said remains when they were talking about Gabby's body. And so that's why I wasn't super sure on that. Maybe it was poetic justice. So it could have been, it could have definitely been sort of an accident situation. Channeling Barbara says, what would Jesus be saying to all of this? The whole thing is soul wrenching for everybody. I think if Jesus was here, his heart would be broken and full of compassion for the Laundrie family, for the Petito family, for the Schmidt family. There never was a time where Jesus wasn't filled with compassion for people. He would have been totally filled with compassion at their loss. Angry if there's sin involved, angry if there's evil involved. He flipped tables when there was sin involved. It made him angry. But he would have been filled with compassion. He always loved people. Dawn says, Dawn, thank you. You became a YouTube member. Thank you, Dawn, for doing that. Excited about that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. They did say human remains. Catherine's making a good point. They did say human remains. So, oh man. Don, our local U.S. Marshal, is saying any body is remains. So Don, I think you would know, you would know that more than I would. You're the resident expert. I'm gonna lean on you in that instance to tell me what the actual situation and truth was in that. So, my goodness, Mindy, thank you for picking up the Don't Stop book from Jefferson City. I speak at a church in Jefferson City quite a bit called Solid Rock Church. Love that church there. Love Jefferson City, the state capital of Missouri. Yua, thank you so much for the super chat. The super sticker means a whole lot. Cameo's Journey says they never said the remains were in the water, only the land they were on. Were the remains there after water receded? So whenever I was listening to JB and I listened to Brian Inton, they were saying that that area wasn't able to be fully searchable because the water was up really high. And just now, because they've had a delay in rain, it hasn't been completely no precipitation in October, but because there's been a delay in the rain in October, the waters have finally receded enough in the past few days to go out there and search different areas. And that happened to be one of the areas. The attorney texted media, but quiet today. Maybe no client. So Audrey, the attorney has been speaking today. In fact, I'm about to pull up a video of the attorney's message of him communicating. Chris Love says, I've been wrestling, and thank you for the super chat too. I've been wrestling in my mind about wanting to see justice served. Justice in this world is what we want, but eternity is what justice looks like. Hell is a lifelong prison sentence. You're right, Chris Love. And I hate that, though. I don't want that justice for anybody. I don't want it for my worst enemy. Okay. I don't want it for Saddam Hussein. Okay. I want anybody that has the possibility to find hope in Jesus from the way that I view the world. And so, but you're right. If he wasn't repentant, and only God can be the judge, if he wasn't repentant, it's going to be a long time. Breezy says, I'm confused. You think it's possible that his parents just had skeletal remains laying around and ready to plant? I don't get this theory. Okay. Thank you, Breezy, for saying that. I didn't say that. I assumed you're talking to people in the chat. So I did not say that. I'm saying right now I'm reserving my opinions about certain things because I want to hear about it. Somebody says the interview was garbage, but I haven't heard it. So I'd like to get a little snippet of it and just sort of get a perspective of what was going on. Brittany, thank you so much for picking up the Don't Stop book. Comes out November 16th, just around the corner. We'll be having that come out. And I cannot wait for you guys to be able to read it, those of you who are interested in that kind of thing. And we'll have some conversations about it as well. Here's the interview of with Stephen Bernardino. I'm trying to find the exact time spot. So that's not Stephen Bernardino. So if somebody can send me this video with the timestamp included in it, that's the only way I'm going to be able to play that, because I can't go through an hour worth of video. Archer says we shouldn't be judging anyone. Let's wait for the DNA. Exactly. I want to wait. I want to wait until we get some of that DNA results. In the meantime, though, there are certain things we can be working on. We can be working on maps. We can be working on when were they out there? When was the car out there? There's lots of things that we can be working on. And we have a lot of that information already in the timeline that I have. Many of you I've sent the timeline to, so you can begin to start looking at that information with me. Barbara says, this is the time that every unhealed creation of man is coming up to be healed. This is the DV reveal. I'm praying for that, Barbara, that and I was on a stream today, an hour-long stream with another pastor on his channel, and he has a really big Facebook page, over 250,000 on his Facebook page. We were live today talking about this exact issue from pastoral perspective of how God's really shining a light on this and how to help people get out of this certain situation. Tiffany says, Cassie's statement, kids lost aunt and uncle. Tiffany, good point. Good point. You're making some good points tonight. Pamela, thank you for becoming a YouTube member today. Man, guys, we're processing a lot of information. We are processing a lot of information together, and it's hard. It's hard for me to process it. Kim, are you still on here? Kim, if you're on here, I sent you a link if you're able to get on. Maybe you can hop on and we can have a conversation. I don't know if you're watching. I emailed you the link just because I like your perspective, and I know you were on here earlier and we were able to have that conversation a little bit. This is just a lot to process for all of us. Thank you guys for being so patient and kind as we're going through it. Seabreeze says it wasn't staged. Edie Ruth says, I'm very confused about everything. Falula says, I'm grateful to be it process here in this community. That's why we're here. I'm wanting us to be able to process this together in this community as well. That's literally the reason why we are here. Avery says, I'm late tonight. Hello, Feller fam. Avery, welcome. You're a little bit late. We've talked about a lot, but that's okay. I'm sure you were hard at work and taking care of your family and stuff, but we're glad that you're with us, and thank you so much for the super chat. So I'm going to go ahead and just put the link in the chat real fast. If some of you guys want to call in, feel free to call in. And let's start having some discussions about this. And listen, guys, as people call in tonight, Sally, thank you for buying the Don't Stop book. As people call in tonight, listen, there's a lot that's not been talked about that we need to figure out. So we find scholars and gracious scholars. We're going to have a lot of people here. So Kim, earlier,
I can't hear you. I don't know if anybody else can, but I think it's because I'm that first caller. I'm gonna leave and come back in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it working now?
Yeah.
It's something weird about that. I was saying I really appreciate your viewpoint you were saying earlier where you were reserving your right to hold your opinion.
Yeah. I just, I thought I knew how I felt. I thought I knew how I felt about everything. But if it turns out that this is him and he was there for a while, then I feel like maybe there's more to the story that we just didn't know. I think it's interesting if Bernardino is saying that he told them not to talk to Gabby's parents and told them not to talk to the media. If he's admitting that, and that's what everybody's saying that he did in the CNN interview, then I think that's a big difference too. That answers another one of the big questions we talked about earlier.
Okay, I just got the CNN interview. Can we watch it?
Yeah.
Somebody sent me a tweet of it finally. So let's check out and see what they say.
A lawyer to be suspicious when somebody won't cooperate with looking for someone they supposedly care about. What is the good reason that they wouldn't want to speak to authorities or to their son's fiance's family?
You can label it good reason, but I can tell you the reason. I told them not to.
And the question becomes, who doesn't talk unless they have something to hide?
Wow.
And you know what? You hear a lot of talk these days about, individual rights. Some people want First Amendment rights. Some people want Second Amendment rights. Conveniently, the public seems to forget about the Fourth, the Fifth, and the Sixth Amendment rights. And you know what? Defense attorneys, and I would say every attorney, including yourself, should push those rights. Some of the experts that have been on these programs, they all espouse, this, and this. But they don't step up and say, hey, you know what? Everybody has the right to remain silent. And that's what I told my clients, and that's what they did.
There's no question they have the right. I've never suggested anything else. But having a right and something being the right thing to do are often different. Now, it has been mentioned that if and when Brian Laundrie is found, then the parents will explain the situation. If this is Brian Laundrie and he is gone, will the parents tell what they knew?
Well, now's not the time to discuss that, Chris. It may come out in the future. It may not. Right now, we're just going to wait for the forensic results, as I said earlier. And, we may come back on that subject sometime in the future.
You've known the family a long time, yes?
Well over 20 years.
Wow.
Is it hard for them to follow your advice?
Hard? No. I've never had clients follow my advice so intently.
But you know what I'm saying? This is hard advice to follow. Not to talk to the Petitos, not to talk to anybody about what happened. This is not easy to do, I'm sure.
No, it's not.
They know the weight of expectation, and they know how it makes them look.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They know the weight. They know it's been hard. But ultimately, this is the advice I gave them. This is the advice they're taking, and that's on me. And I took that heat, September 14th when I had to give a little speech in front of a camera. Somebody in front of my office got me. And I said to them, I'm the one who told them not to talk. That's been on me from day one. That's not on the family. And if it turns out that my legal advice is wrong in that perspective, so be it. but that's on me, not on the family.
Well, giving the advice is on you. Taking it is on them. They are aware that they may be the only people who are able to tell the story of what happened to Gabby.
At some point in time, Chris, as I said earlier, now's not the time to discuss that. Right now, we're going to wait for the forensic results to come in, and we may revisit this in the future.
All right, Counselor, look, I appreciate, especially last second like this, you coming on to explain how they came to be there today and the correction on what they told authorities and when about the disappearance. And we'll take you at your word that there's a chance that once this is cleared up, that it's Brian, the family want to make, might want to make a proffer of what they knew, because obviously the curiosity is immense, especially for the Petito family. Appreciate you taking the opportunity.
Well, Chris, I appreciate you having me on tonight. Be well.
All right, you too.
So Kim,
Wow.
that was Bertolino taking the pressure. The thing that I didn't understand about it, and help me understand this, he told them not to talk to the parents, but the parent conversation happened before Brian Laundrie was absent, which just then means that he was representing Brian in this specific case long before Gabby was a missing person, right?
I think so. But what I heard yesterday when I listened to the last Dr. Phil episode is that Nicole said that she started calling on the 10th. So
Right.
that was a good week. Well, 10 days after Brian was home and 3 days before he disappeared. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder, it's something he had to have told his parents something, obviously, to get the lawyer. Whoever brought that up today was completely forgetting that for some reason, but he had to have told them something. And I think maybe that's what Chris was getting at, is that if it is Brian, then maybe at that point they're going to say what he told them.
Yeah. I hope so. Perfect 10 says juicy day today. Thank you for the super chat. And then we have Just a Mom with the super chat saying the lawyer sure didn't say the parents were not involved. Did you pick that up too? What were some of the other nuggets that you had? Just, I mean, like we spoke earlier, I'm having a hard time processing all of this.
I'm having a hard time processing it too. The only thing I really took out of that is him taking the weight off Roberta and Chris by saying, or trying to take some of the weight off of them by saying he told them not to speak, that they wanted to talk to the Petitos and they wanted to talk to the media, but he told them not to speak. So that's kind of interesting that he would take all that weight. He must know, I mean, just speaking off the top of my head, I feel like he must think this is Brian, because otherwise then that could possibly lead to maybe some obstruction there if it wasn't Brian who passed away.
So if it wasn't Brian that passed away, that, like, talk about the twist of all twisties, right?
Absolutely.
There's so many, I wish we had a forensic expert on, like maybe Don Caesar can call in if he knows a little bit more about this, because like, what if all they have is bones? Like like there's so many questions I have about trying to figure out, how do we figure out who this person is, or what were there are so many questions. What were the remains that we found?
Well, on the interview room the other night, they had a DNA expert who's like, she's pioneered this new DNA method. And it's ironic that this happened this way, because they were asking her that question, that is there a way to do DNA if you don't have flesh? And she said, yes. She said there is a way to do. Now, I can't recall what she said, because I wasn't thinking this was going to happen. So I wasn't paying really close attention to that part. I was more listening to the Moab PI. But she was saying, yes, there's many different ways that DNA can be done. Maybe I know a couple of people heard that interview, so maybe somebody can call in later and refresh our memory on how she said that can be done. But somebody's saying bone marrow, duh. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a DNA expert, and I'm definitely not a medical expert, but that makes sense. A couple of people are saying bone marrow, so that's possibly how it's done. Bone and hair yield DNA. Yeah, that's probably the way that they would do it, I would imagine. But that's kind of what I took out of that, is that he wanted to take the weight off of their shoulders, which is a little interesting, I guess. Somebody said that the Petitos were calling way before the 14th. Yeah. Yesterday, Nicole, or what I heard was Nicole saying that they started calling on the 9th. And then the 10th, I think, is when the police made the first visit to the house. And then the 11th is when he drove off. Or is that when I can't remember.
I can bring up the timeline for sure, and we can
Okay.
talk about that. But it's basically in that same ballpark. Like, and so what I'm saying then is like, so the Nicole started trying to get a hold of Roberta, and then do you think this is possible? What happened, right? She was like, "Oh, hey, I'm getting some calls from the family. Where's Gabby at?" Right?
Mm-hmm.
If they didn't know anything or
Right.
whatever, and then he's like, and
I
because they're
thought,
like,
well, I've thought about that all day. Like this has been running through my head all day. Like, what would I mean, heaven forbid, I mean, a parent's worst nightmare. And like I said earlier, I think, my kids are what I would consider good kids as far as I know, but I was trying to put myself in their shoes and saying, what could my kid have told me that I would maybe not answer the phone? And I started wondering if maybe she was getting these calls, like you said, and, I'm getting these calls from the Petitos and him saying, I'll handle it. I'll call them. I'll call them. And she would say the next day, I'm still getting these calls. Him saying, I told you I'll handle it. I, I'm just kind of grasping at straws on why not answer the phone. If I didn't know what to say and my son was just telling me, let's say he was just telling me, oh, I just left her there. Her friend met her. She wanted to stay. We broke up. You know, she's partying. Who knows what he could have said, but that's probably the only thing that my kids could say to me. And I would go, okay, you handle it,
yep.
man up, call them and let them know what's going on. And that continuing for a few days till he disappeared. That's the only thing. I mean, that's the only thing I could possibly see as a parent myself that would make me not answer the phone. If my kid said, I'm going to call him, I'm going to call him, I'm going to call him. Okay, you do it.
So Rita sent a super sticker of alligators. I don't know if you saw that.
No, it's funny because they said that alligator was there, but right when this case first started, I looked up, there's only been like 19 human alligator deaths since they started tracking it in the early 1980s.
They said
So,
alligators are afraid of people, don't really like people.
yeah, it's
So
pretty rare. But I guess if he had already passed away, if he did unalive himself, or if he did, hang him, I don't know. If he did one of those things and ended up in the water, that would probably be a bit different. That would be,
Avery, thank you for the super chat. You say bone is one of the best sources of DNA from decomposed human remains. Even if flesh is decomposed, DNA can often be obtained from demineralized bones. Okay, that's a really good point. Thank you.
It is. I don't know much honestly about DNA other than I'm not in the medical field, but it does make sense. So thanks, Avery. That's good to know.
if you remember, according to do you remember I made two different timelines, one that included Kylan and Crystal, one that didn't. I just want to state that for the record for anybody watching. Since the beginning, I've been tracking in two lanes because I was building out theories for both, just so everyone in the whole world can know that. And anybody who asked for a timeline in those days where we were sending them out in the early parts of this discovery received a timeline from me that included both, one with Crystal and Kylan and one without. Just for the record, I want to say that. But according to that initial timeline, we were saying that on September 11th is when the actual missing persons report was filed.
That's right.
That's when they went back and said, "Hey, the van's at home." So on September 11th is whenever Nicole felt it in her heart that something bad had happened, because they went and said, "Hey, there's a missing persons report going on with that." The family was saying on the 14th they had initially filed a missing person thing on Brian, but didn't they recant it eventually and say it was the 13th?
Yeah, and then they came back and said it was the 13th, and that he left on the 11th, I think, and on the 12th they went out there and looked for him. And then when they originally filed the missing persons report, it was the 4th. And I'm sure if I'm wrong, somebody will correct me in chat. But they changed that to the 13th that they actually filed the report. So
yes, that's what happened. Yep.
Okay.
And then on the 15th, he was labeled as a person of interest. And so on the 17th, it says the Brian's parents say they have not seen their son in a couple of days and report him missing. So there's a lot unpacking about that. Mary says, "Hey Tyler, just now joining the live. I don't know if it's been addressed, but what do you think of the FBI saying what appears to be human bones?" Hey Mary, thank you for sending them. They said what appears to be human remains, and we don't know what those remains are, and hopefully they're able to test it and find it out. Kim, I don't want to make you stay on here all night, so thank you for popping in.
Yeah,
Do you have any other?
Yeah, just two things real quick. Appears, I think, is just at first I thought that was kind of weird that they said that too. What appears to be human remains.
I was being very intentional about, if you saw me correcting people earlier today, because they're like possible. I'm like, no. We got to go with what they said. And they said appears.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was a very interesting choice of words. But the more I've thought about that, it could just be because they don't know anything yet. They just have, maybe bone. It sounds like it's bone. I mean, honestly, it's morbid as that sounds.
The word appears seems a bit stronger to me than the word possible, right?
Right. I think so too. I think that indicates that there's not much that they can definitively say is human, which indicates bones, which is why I think that he's been out there a long time, if that's him, or whatever human that is. I think that person has been out there a long time, if it's just bone. So that was just one thing I wanted to add. And then about the AT&T store, the only reason why I was bringing that up, a couple of people said, well, why wouldn't the AT&T store call, the FBI or the police first if there was a ping? And my thought is, if you live in a town where you're pretty much well known, kind of like Jennifer, the retired FBI agent, was saying, that maybe somebody tipped them off. It could be a family member. It could be a friend that works there. It could be somebody that was watching for the phone to ping for them.
Yep.
And, when the water receded, the phone may have dried out enough to ping, and they may have let them know. I mean, that's pure speculation. But I was kind of bouncing off what Jennifer said about maybe somebody they knew had tipped them off that's where the stuff was. So that's, I mean, there's a small part of me that's, conspiracy brain that says, yeah, it could be staged. I mean, it seems awful suspicious, but it did seem like he knew where he was going to get that. So that leads me to think it has to be something that somebody told him, like Jennifer said. So
do you have time for me to go through this article and see what it says? Okay. The attorney says that Christopher Laundrie found the bag with Brian's items. Officers found the backpack near remains. So I want to think about this backpack for a second. After searching for Brian Laundrie for more than a month, FBI Tampa says the investigation found human remains at the Carlton Reserve Wednesday. The remains have not been identified. They also found Laundrie's backpack and notebook. They found these items in an area that was underwater until recently. The attorney for the Laundrie family, Stephen Bernardino, confirmed with 8 on Your Side that Chris and Roberta Laundrie and 2 officers were spread out on either side of the trail. I think that was part of the discussion too, wasn't it?
Yeah, that whether or not the police were with them. So it sounds like they were with them the whole time.
Yeah, and like that's what I'm saying. Like a picture of them doesn't mean there weren't 2 officers over here.
They're just
we're trying to build that out. I'm like, it doesn't, and there were protesters out there trying to catch them on something, right?
Right. And there, one of the things I meant to tell you too is, JB said later, he and Walt, that there was a waterproof bag, and that picture somewhere. When I get off, I'll look for it and see if I can send it to you. But it's one of those waterproof bags that you roll the top down and it has a buckle.
Yep.
That was found there. And that was what Chris came out of the woods with.
So I'm well, this article is basically over. He says Chris found a bag containing some of Brian's items. Mm-hmm. Eagle 8 HD flew over the reserve and the environmental park. Northport police called the county. We continue to ask in your assistance. And he says, in bringing this investigation to a close. So Swirefly, I think if I'm reading that correctly, the quote was, we ask in your assistance to bring this investigation to a close. Not that it was this bring. So it's just a more precise way to say that. Thank you for the super chat. Mary says,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mary says it was definitely remains. Sorry for the confusion. So
yeah, no, it just seems weird that we continue to ask in your assistance to bring this investigation to a close. What assistance? That seemed like very open-ended.
Yeah, like who's he talking about? The media?
Yeah.
The public?
Yeah. Because I mean, as we bring this to a close, he says in in your assistance to bring. I don't know.
Sumer Tulak, thank you so much for your support. So I was hoping that this article would give us a picture of what they found, and it's not on here. Do you know, did Brian Inton post that, or have you seen that?
Yeah, I think it was Brian Inton, and it was when the Roberta and Chris were standing there talking to the other officer that put his hand on his shoulder.
Just as I said that, Patricia Douglas literally emailed it as it was coming out of my mouth, a picture of what was found. It couldn't have been more perfect timing. It was like literally, Patricia Douglas, you were on top of it. Like you knew what I was looking for next, and she's just sent it. So break this down for me, Kim, because they've came out with a statement and said this.
That this is a waterproof bag, the kind that, like, if you're going hunting or canoeing or kayaking, you put all of your things in it, you roll the top down, and then you buckle it. And it's supposed to be slick, completely waterproof. But I have heard some people say another picture showed a hole in the bottom, which would kind of defeat the purpose of it. But generally, I've used those before canoeing when I lived in Florida, and you can turn over the whole canoe. It can end up at the bottom, and oh no, they float. They float. That's true. I forgot about that. They float.
So yeah, they float. So that begs the question, like, how did it not float away?
Or not be seen before.
So maybe this one doesn't float.
Yeah, or maybe the hole in it prevented it from floating, because there were other pictures going around that showed not a complete hole, but there was like a tear, because those are like that nylon fabric, and there was like a tear in the nylon. So I mean, maybe.
So essentially, whatever was in the notebook is probably water. Like maybe there's a way to restore it, but it's probably gone.
Well, somebody, and again, this is Twitter, so take it for what it's worth. Somebody who does evidence was saying that if that good restoration people can take a waterlogged book and can take an imprint of the page and still be able to tell what was on it. Now, I don't know if that's true. I mean, it was just something I read on Twitter, but it was.
If somebody went through my notepad, it's just a list of all the people who support this channel through super chats and Feller fam, so that I can remember to think about them, thank the Lord for them, pray for them, and show my support. Just that's here nor there, but that's when I'm thinking about notebook, I always have one next to me, and I think Brian had one where he was doing a lot of artwork.
Right,
thank you, Kim, I know you're still gonna be watching. Thank you for calling in.
Thanks, Tyler. Have a good night.
Let Kim know how much you love her and appreciate just her viewpoint. She's been a valued guest on the show many times. So thank you, Kim, for doing that and being on the show with us. Avery says, can all 7,400, now it's up to 7,600 people, give us a thumbs up on this video? It would be awesome. Thank you for sending the super chat, Avery. Thank you for saying that. Okay, guys, I'm going to add somebody to the call we all want to hear from. Be gracious with what he has to say. Don Caesar, how are you?
Good evening. How are you doing? It is a not going to be a good day. Basically, I think this is the beginning of the end game. I'm under the impression, from what I know, that this is Brian's body or remains. How he ended up dying is going to have to be discussed. It's going to have to be scientifically looked at. I will tell you from experience, living down there, working down there, some facts that people want to, have been bantering around.
Yeah.
August and September are the wettest months in Central Florida. That area basically becomes literally a swamp. And it's a purpose for it, because that becomes a major area for the inlet waterways to be cleansed. It's giving the brackish waters and waterways and some of the underground reservoirs natural reservoirs, a chance to be cleansed, and also to allow fish and other things to come in. And basically, it's a swamp. So if he was camping there, and let's suppose he was hiding out, and he ended up getting a flash flood at that period, which would have been right at the beginning of around the 17th, 13th, 14th, 15th of September. It's a possibility that he could have drowned, but also too, you have water moccasins in that area. And if he got himself into a nest of water moccasins, he'd be dead in about 15 minutes. Because they're quite poisonous. That's one reason why they did not search that area. But from what I was told is that cadaver dogs got a ping on it about 7 to 10 days ago when they were doing that search.
Which
Because
is why they brought Christopher Laundrie out there like last week, essentially.
Well, before that, they brought in a diving team, but because the water was still too brackish, they saw gators and they also saw snake nests. They used a sonar, which is basically like a little camera that they put inside that they do. They do that, for looking for people who might be submerged in lakes, swimmers. And so they saw something. They saw a body or what they thought was an image of a body, but they weren't going to do anything. They just kind of made note of it. Now, how did the Laundries get out there? Did someone see it? They opened it up. I'm getting the feeling that it may have been a park ranger who might have seen it, and then he was the one that called the FBI. And then in turn, the FBI then contacted the Laundries, or the Laundries then contacted their attorney. I watched the interview with Bertolino on CNN, pretty much the whole thing. And it tells you right off the bat, since I've been dealing with attorneys and I've been in law enforcement for a very long time, and I'm a private investigator, that the Bertolino was there on day one, going back to August 28th, which is approximately the date, as I've said before, between the sunset, the 27th of August, and sunrise on the 28th is when Gabby was murdered.
So basically that would indicate that Brian called home and said...
Absolutely. Now, whose phone did he use? Did he use his phone or did he use Gabby's? If Gabby uses an Apple, once an Apple is decertified, turned off, you can't get to it. You would have to get a court order, and the FBI may have it, they may not. But Apple is one of the most notorious companies to give information out. You literally have to go to the Supreme Court to get Apple to give you anything. So if Apple has, that information as far as any calls that she made, they're sealed. You can't get them because they would be on the phone. If the phone is missing or has been destroyed or thrown away, you're never going to find it because that's just the way Apple is. But he made a phone call. If he went in, if he found the body in the morning of his girlfriend dead, if she had been murdered by someone else, then he would have freaked out. If he had murdered her, he would still freaked out. He would have called, Mom, this is what I did. I did a bad thing. Yeah. They would have immediately called Bertolino. Bertolino would have called him back and said, give me his son's number. He told him exactly what to do. Get in the car, drive speed limit, stay off toll roads, get cash. Don't use cash tolls, or if you have to go use cash tolls, use cash tolls. Stay away from toll roads. Stay on small highways if necessary. Drive all night. Don't sleep. Don't stop anywhere. Don't let anyone know because they already had the license plate.
And he stopped and did a debit card for $1,000. Hey, Latricia asked this question, Don. She wants your insight on it too, and I want it too. She said, "I hope the notebook tells us what happened, either by pictures, words, or confession. If it's underwater, is it going to be?" Thank you, Latricia, for the chat. Is it going to be recyclable?
Well, first of all, how did it end up in the waterproof bag? Was that something that he carried with him when he went off? Don't forget, he did not have a cell phone. He did not have a wallet. Did he put a waterproof bag with him? Did he? He may have. He may have totally said that this is what I'm going to do. Did he write a suicide note? Did he sit there and admit what he did? Did he tell a side of the story that we don't know yet? We don't know. You will never know. We will never know because that information will remain locked up in the FBI. Unless they get a court.
They were confident to leave the house and run errands yesterday, then make a brief search per their attorney this morning, and voila, I just can't. Thank you, Rebecca, for the super chat. So people are split, not down the middle. There's more people who think that this was a stage sort of a thing than just a sincere sort of thing. So
we'll know when the body's discovered, and if they do the DNA and the teeth, if it's Brian. You can't fake that.
You can't fake that, right? So break down to us the definition of remains versus bones versus whatever it could possibly be.
Okay. I witnessed my mom passing away in the hospital 30 years ago. The moment she died in the hospital, the moment her heart stopped and went dead and went flatlined, about 7 minutes later, her brain died, because it takes that much time for the brain to die. She was dead. She was no longer living. She was no longer spirited. Those are remains. The body begins to decompose immediately, not 5 minutes later, but immediately. Cells begin to split. Ions, it's called autolysis. It's where the body begins to eat itself up from the inside, starting with enzymes and acids that are from the breakup of cells, to bacteria, first anaerobic and then aerobic. And then, of course, if it's outside, you're going to have gnats, flies, bugs. The eyes go first, okay, and then the ears, and then the skin. You have that's fresh dead, and then you've got bloat. That's where the putrefaction begins. It's when the skin starts falling off, and then you have what is known as wet decay, and that's where the body basically is nothing but mush, and there's some bone and cartilage goes away. And then you have what is called a dry rot, which is basically some skin, clothing, some cloths, and skull. And then, of course, you have dry bones after that.
So if he was underwater for 2 weeks, first Frank sent a super chat and he said, "What about the agent handling this evidence with no gloves? Is that a big deal?"
Oh, that was a mistake. You don't go in. That's you don't do that. You go in wearing gloves. You go in wearing hazmat material, literally. You go into that water, as brackish as it is. Well, of course it's not, because now it's more like mud. It's more like a mud pit now. That's probably more like what it is. If it's been underwater, the body, the brackish water is much more acidic than, let's say, fresh water. So things are going to deteriorate much faster, especially down there. That's acidic soil, very acidic soil. So the body's going to deteriorate much faster. Plus it's hot. I mean, it's 70, 80 degrees down there, just like it was out in Wyoming. The warmer it is, the more where you have insect activity and animal activity, the body's going to deteriorate. It's probably going to be close to the same condition as Gabby's was. So the only thing they're going to be able to really use, though, is teeth and dental, which is something they did not really do with Gabby's. They identified her from a shirt she was wearing, which, by the way, was the only garment she was wearing.
Mm.
There were no shoes on her. She did not have any pants.
That's interesting.
Well, yes, it is interesting. It is. This case is far from over. I think it's going to, and I've said this before, and people have said, when I was going to be on the chat, people said, well, is he going to talk about human trafficking again? No. But it goes all the way back. I think the beginning goes all the way back. The FBI is going to have to go all the way back to Salt Lake City, because things began to happen after they got into Salt Lake City and he took off to go back to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
She was in that motel alone. Did somebody spot her?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying human trafficking. I'm talking about anybody, a trucker, anybody. You see somebody, especially if it's a serial killer. You see somebody, she could have smiled at somebody. That's all that triggers some people. Then it's like, okay, I'm locked in. I'm going to get this girl. They could have followed him. They could have been a person could have followed them everywhere they were going, because if they had a GPS tracker on that van, if it was planted, you can follow them anywhere. They could have been at the restaurant. He could have followed them and been camping somewhere far away. When he took off to go on a hike, which I think is what he did, that's what some people are saying out there in Wyoming. She might have been by herself, and then she might have been attacked and then drugged out.
I use softer language sometimes intentionally because it doesn't ping YouTube, and it's trigger words also for people in the chat sometimes. But the former FBI agent today in the interview alluded that it's her assumption that Brian purposefully ended his life. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, he had the motivation to do so. If you go back and take a look at his Instagram, that's the one posted where supposedly he and her were engaged, going back to 2019. Beautiful photograph. If you look at the copy that he wrote, "You are the love of my life. I can't think of living a day if you are not with me." Take a look at it. It's on its Instagram account.
I remember the post. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So if he murdered her, here's the thing. For all this evidence that supposedly the FBI got, and I've, as I said, I've talked with people in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I do this on the side because I've got the things that I'm doing. It's pretty well known that the coroner in Teton County screwed it up.
Mm-hmm.
He's done. He's going to be investigated by the state coroner's office, by the attorney general. This idea is, of him losing his job with the hospital. That's just the beginning. Okay. Because they haven't had a murder out there. He didn't have the facilities. He didn't have the equipment. They have a little shack out there. He had to call people in. That was something that the county didn't want to do. Handle it yourself. No, I can't. It's just too big. He makes an assumption she died of a homicide. That was the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then after 3 or 4 weeks, she died of manual strangulation by the hand. And that's it. Okay. Questions that should have been asked. Was she raped? Was she bound? Was she murdered in one spot and then dragged? Those were questions that were not asked. I've asked some of these questions to people as high up as the Attorney General office in Wyoming. And let me tell you what my answers are. We cannot confirm. We cannot confirm nor deny. That in law enforcement means it's a yes.
Because they can say no if it wasn't true. Like, was she pregnant? No, she was not pregnant.
That was but an absolute. Now, as I said, there was talk of whether or not she was pregnant or not. I think she wanted to be, but I don't think she was. But was she raped? If she wasn't raped, then why was only part of her clothes on? They only were able to identify her from one thing, and that was that one shirt. They were not able to. Were not able to identify her from her arms or from her tattoos because they weren't available. The skin was already gone. I asked the question: was she buried? We cannot confirm nor deny. I said, well, was there animal activity that would have caused the body to be exposed? We cannot confirm nor deny, but once again, that means yes. In other words, that's how you answer things, because nobody wants to, no one, and it really shouldn't, take the responsibility of saying, yes, it is, because then that comes back to haunt you, especially at the time of a trial, if there will be one. But if they had the DNA on Brian, they would have been able to they would have gone out and put an absentia. They would have put a warrant for his arrest for murder.
Patty has a super chat question for you. So the victim and person of interest in the murder are dead. Why is everything we want to know sealed?
Because that's the FBI has got this sealed and I think this is what's going to happen. They're going to, first of all, we'll find out for sure if the body is Brian's within the next 24 hours, maybe 48, but I think pretty sure. If they're working on it tonight, and because Florida's got much more forensic abilities than Teton County, I think they're going to find out right away. Okay. 2, if they have anything that was left, like bags, they're going to have to check that. They're going to have to check for fingerprints. They're going to have to check for DNA. They're going to have to check and see if it was his writings, if they can read them. Are they going to go back and check any kind of Did he make any kind of, did he have, he didn't have a cell phone or anything like that, but, there were some people thinking that maybe he was able to get in contact, or that he was left messages with people, or people knew where he was and they were not speaking. I think his attorney knew. It's pretty well impressive. If you listen to the conversation he had with Cuomo, he knew where he was. He knew everything about his client from day one. And he told his parents to keep quiet, and they were willing to, because there's going to be some, I think this is what's going to happen. I already know for a fact that they have already booked literary agents, all three of them. Because when this thing clears up, this is going to be one of the biggest filmmaking and television movie events. Okay, going all the way back to O.J. Simpson. It's going to be one of the biggest things you're going to see. You're going to see one station after the other, one company after the other produce some sort of movie about Gabby and Brian. And guess who's going to get the residuals? These three people. Not a single penny will go to the Petitos, which is wrong. Because they're right now, they've got the attorney who's already been handling all this. That's how dirty they are. That's how crooked they are. That's how screwed up they are. They are a screwed up family. And that's not just me speaking. That's people up and down the East Coast, from New York down to Florida. Their business dealings, they got fingers in real estate trusts up and down the coasts.
So the part of it too, how rate it to 1 to 100%. How for sure are you that they got a lawyer pertaining to the incident with Gabby on August 28th?
Well, the reason I'm saying that, and the reason why I can make that statement, is because when he was when they went back into the house to look for things, they found that the car had been in 2 or 3 different states where the car was spotted, either at a gas station or whatever. And they showed scene where he was on the phone talking to somebody. This would not have happened if they hadn't called. It's a strong assumption. We won't know until we take a look at phone records. And that's going to have to be coming from Bertolino. He's going to be the fighter. You're going to see him fighting like crazy. But they had him booked the moment that Brian called him and said, I found Gabby dead. I killed Gabby. Either or. Because everything happened that moment. His taking off. He was, beforehand, he was hitchhiking. He had to find some place to get the money. That's why he was going. He had $200 in his pocket. He had to get $1,000. He was trying to find some place that had an ATM where he wouldn't be spotted. Because none of the ATM show him taking the money out. He went to one of those kiosks where they don't take photographs.
Yeah, he did it at the gas station next to where I live. People keep asking, how many years were you a U.S. Marshal?
I was in the Marshals from 1982 until I retired in 2003.
And then since 2003, you have your own private investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I appreciate your insight. I appreciate every time you call in. And for me, it's really important to listen. I'm not saying that I, agree with everything you're saying, and I know you know that, but I really appreciate when you call in, and I like to get your perspective on these things and hear what you have to say. And thank you for serving in that. What do you think about the U.S. Marshals banging in the door of that guy in the Appalachian Trail and turned out not to be Brian Laundrie?
I think that was what we call collateral damage. Mistakes are made. Okay, people were at that point. You have to remember that there's not a lot of communication. The FBI is stretched out. You got the FBI handling 55 million things right now. We've got things going on down south with the immigrants coming in. being shipped all over the country. They have to be checked out by the FBI. I mean, they're stretched out. The bureau is stretched out thin. The marshals are doing a lot of the things now that the FBI used to not do, but they're doing it now. I'll tell you a person who I admire, and I think he made some really good points. I don't know if you saw the 60 Minutes Australian show.
I saw it.
They are doing a fantastic job because they're keeping this. The two people that I think that this group, the 60 Minutes Australian group, and the guy Brian is doing yes. I think both groups are doing a fantastic job of keeping this out, not just here in the United States, but around the planet.
Yeah.
But Lenny DuPaul, who was the marshal that was featured on there, I've met him a few times. He's a good man. He's a smart man. And he was right on toe on things. Of course, now that he's given all the information because he's still tied in a little closer to the feds than I am. I'm working independently, but I have my contacts just from being in the bureau for 30 years.
Again, today, whenever that press conference broke and the news broke, there was just so much going on in my mind, and it's kind of been hard to process all of it.
I was in a meeting. Wasn't having anything to do with law enforcement, and I just happened to get a text in the middle of the meeting, and it sat down there and said that they think they may have found a body. And the first thing I thought about you guys, but then I sat there and I thought about the Petitos.
Yeah.
See, that's where we have to remember. A young woman was killed. A young woman was murdered. Either she was murdered by Brian or she was murdered by an unsub.
Do you think Brian's guilty?
I used to think it. I don't think so anymore. Unless we'll have to wait and see with all this information, all this stuff in the backpack, if it's released. Bertolino's going to do everything he can to keep it from being released. He's a dirty attorney. But you know what? You want that, I guess, because I've had law enforcement people I've talked to says this case is going to be studied between now for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
On how to commit a murder and get away with it.
Yeah.
And as law enforcement, I sit there and I see TV shows on like what they had on one of the networks a few years ago, where there was a law professor telling her students on how to kill someone. I mean, God knows, but you can find it on the internet anywhere, dark web. You can find it on all sorts of sites on how to kill people.
Heartbreaking. That was a super chat that Avery sent in. Thank you, Avery. Just wanting to know this. And DG saying, so do you think this case is connected at all to the case of Kylan and Crystal and Moab, or they're completely disconnected?
I think I'm going by with what people are telling me out there, that it is. It may be the same person that killed the girls, may have killed Cabby.
So that's interesting. That's a really interesting way to think about it. Another question for you is, do you have a source about Gabby's missing pants, or is this inside information?
This information came from somebody who was on the search team. Because the body, when they found it, the body was partially exposed above ground, and I'm not sure what part of her body or part of her remains were exposed, where they were able to discover it. But they put the tent up. As they were putting the tent up, the helicopter, and that was that one chopper, which is why they're not doing that in Florida. They've put a no-fly space around the
chopper there. Started circling where they were putting up that second tent, and they put the FAA or whatever put a no-fly order.
Right, because they saw what happened with that with Tito. I don't know if that was also a Bertolino event or what. But if you take a look at at some of the rough footage of the helicopter before it went on transmission, and there's a couple of sites that have got it, you'll see when it goes close up, you see what looks like to be parts of a body exposed and the rest of it buried. So I think the body was buried. And if that's the case, I don't know how Brian could have done that, because I don't think he had any digging tools.
When Dr. Brent Blue mentioned the word DV in the press conference, was that intentional or accidental?
I think it was a Freudian slip. You know what that is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but our listeners may not. So you
well,
can.
Freudian slip is where, it comes from Dr. Sigmund Freud, in which someone makes a statement without thinking, but it's ironically tied to what you're discussing.
Mm-hmm. Did you see his own DV past where he had been?
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
That was interesting. He was initially, I want to say it for people who didn't know, he was initially charged with a felony DV case, and then they moved it down to a misdemeanor so he could have a weapon.
And that's how. Well, that's how he's. That's how the political system works out there. In that part of the state. Everything's political. Everything out there. You got to remember is county based. It's not like you have cities, like it is in New York or Pennsylvania, where everything you have townships and people. It's what was known as local rule. Out there, it's county. So the county's big, and it's huge. It's huge state area wise. So the counties are very, very big. So he's got political friends that have protected him for the last 25 years or so, but I think they're all going away because this whole case just is blowing up. I don't think he'll be coroner very long. They'll find somebody else. And they're, because as I said, you drive by the shack, this was the biggest case they've ever had.
Yeah.
And the problem is this, if you look at the history of, the history of Wyoming, I'm just bringing up something. Give me a second. Somebody's give me a second. I'm still here, but somebody is.
How about I have you call back tomorrow, Dawn, and we can go over some more information. And there's a few other people waiting. But
Sure, I understand.
But calling in.
I understand. Just somebody sent me a text about something I've been working on. So, basically, it was a small area. They get maybe some people that have died from exposure. They find a body someone who's hiked up and died on a mountain. But this was a murder case that got international publicity, and he was unable to handle it.
Yep. Well, thank you for calling in, Don. I really appreciate your viewpoints.
Thank you, sir. I'll talk to you guys later, and let's just see what happens.
Yep. Thank you. Have a good evening. I like it when Don calls in. I'm not saying I agree with every viewpoint he has, but I do appreciate him, and I appreciate what he has to say. I have no reason not to believe he's a U.S. Marshal. He retired in 2003, according to what he said. I have every reason to believe him. Chris and Roberta knew everything. They put him down. He's going to leave this world their way. They don't have to talk. The Fifth Amendment protects him. Thank you, TK, for the super chat. I wanted to take a second and just listen. I know a lot of you guys were saying get him off, but I wanted to take a second and listen to him. I also wanted to shout out and thank you for the super chat. You were saying the Let It Be super chat. Mary, I saw your super chat about your father-in-law. I'm so sorry to hear that. And you gave us insight about what may be happening with this notebook. And then Trish, I thank you for your super chat too. You were talking about was justice served. For me, I just say this, like for me, this isn't the way I want justice to be served. Like in my opinion, finding the remains of a body is not how I want that to take place. Annette, thank you for the super sticker. Kathy, thank you for joining the Feller fam. We opened up a Facebook group today for people who are part of the Feller fam. And it's been a great source of conversation for us, for a lot of people, to be able to have those conversations. And I found it a really insightful place, especially what a great day for us to launch our private Facebook group on a day like today. It's like, what a day. And everybody's been in there sharing their viewpoints and their insights. And Man alive. Here's sort of the latest report from Brian Inton. Let's take a listen.
Where they didn't take any questions, that they expected to be here for several days. We could tell from the aerial video today that they've got quite a large area surrounded with crime scene tape. There's two different tents that they have up in that area. So they're going to be out investigating for a couple of days, they say. In terms of when they'll be able to positively identify those human remains, the latest we've heard from the medical examiner tonight is he expects possibly tomorrow, possibly the day after that. He says it could take longer, but he's thinking 1 or 2 days.
Brian, the overarching question from so many people at home, I have the same question, is how could they have missed this? They have been combing through this reserve for week after week. You have some information from the attorney today about what led to today's findings involving the Laundrie parents. In case people are just joining us, walk us through how they ended up out there this morning and came across these items.
So this is according to the Laundrie family attorney, Stephen Bertolino. He says yesterday his clients realized the reserve was back open and told him that they wanted to come out here and search for Brian. Mr. Bertolino says that he then called police and said Brian's parents, Chris and Roberta, will be at the reserve at 7 a.m. tomorrow, 7 a.m. this morning, and you can meet them out there. So Chris and Roberta, according to the attorney, show up out here. They rendezvous with the police. They go to one of the areas that Brian used to hike quite a bit. And according to the attorney, Christopher Laundrie, the dad, is on one side of this trail and the two police officers are on the other side. And the attorney says that Christopher Laundrie found a bag that had some of Brian's personal items in it on one side of the trail. And he says, meanwhile, on the other side of the trail, the two law enforcement officers came across a backpack that belonged to Brian Laundrie. And then further into the swamp right there, the attorney says that is where the human remains were discovered.
Brian, I have a couple questions here from folks on Twitter. This first one is from Robin Ann. She says, was it the parents that actually found these remains?
Big question.
Backpack. Will they be questioned now as to why they suddenly wanted to search and within minutes found belongings? They also want to know, why were they at AT&T yesterday, and was it possible they hadn't heard from Brian and they're trying to track the location? What can you tell us?
Okay, so a couple parts to that question. First of all, we know they were at AT&T yesterday. They went to the AT&T store in Sarasota. They were inside for about 20 minutes. Why they went, what they purchased, we don't know. In terms of the part of the question, did they find the body? According to the lawyer, no. It was the police officers that found the backpack and then the human remains off of the trail.
Brian, I have another question. This is from Sherry tonight. She said, did the parents leave their house any time between the park being open to the public and them openly leaving their home to go search for their missing son?
Yes. Yesterday morning, we know they left for 4 to 5 hours. They went several places. It is one of their longest journeys since all of this began, leaving the house. They went to Walmart. They went to the AT&T store, as I just mentioned. They went to the bank, and they went to a FedEx store. So that was about 4 or 5 hours yesterday morning. They went back to the house, and then it was this morning when they came out to the reserve and these discoveries were made.
And we assume back at their house tonight. Brian Enton.
So there you go. It's a report from Brian Inton, just giving a bit of a rundown of some of the stuff that was happening. Redivision, thank you so much for the super chat. Golden Fire, thank you for joining the Feller fam today. It's a great day to join the Feller fam, and I appreciate everybody who's doing that. You joined Kathy and several others today that's made the decision to join the Feller fam. Brian is saying, so now if you finally got hillbilly cops who can't find two deadlies with a bunny in the campsite with Gary bottles tossed all over. I don't know what you mean by that, so I'm kind of not diving too deep in that. Tiffany says, hopefully if gun is there or will be linked back. Now, I do want to know that. Was there a gun involved, handgun involved? Let's get to the bottom of some of that information. Again, this is a look at sort of like the evening picture of the Carlton Reserve, what that scene looks like currently, and there's good reason to kind of get an insight of that. I'm going to add Cindy to the call. Cindy, how are you?
Hi, Tyler. How are you?
I'm all right. So, man, it's been a crazy day. What are you thinking about everything?
Oh, it is a crazy day. When I first heard the information, I'm like, how that the parents just wake up and decide they want to go search this park today. With all of the protesters at the house, nobody followed them. I
Yeah,
mean,
the
they have to go
protesters were
follow.
there.
Were they seeing if everybody's saying the stuff was planted? I can't imagine it's being planted. They're being watched day and night with the items. People are saying that they planted it. I don't know how that would be possible with so many eyes on them.
Hmm. Yeah, again, and even like to me, I agree with you in a lot of ways, because even the people are saying part of the reason people are saying they're planted is because there's that picture of them searching where there's no police officers, but the police and everybody's came out and made a statement saying that the police went to one side and the Berlians went to the other side and they were working together. So it was sort of just like a photo op thing, and then it spun out into this situation.
It was just so hard to believe that they found the stuff right away.
But
This
it was
wasn't like a
closed off. Like, it was closed off, so like the protesters weren't out there where Christopher and Roberta was, but there was plenty of news stations out there and people were watching, and that's how we have footage of what was happening. But during the press conference, the protesters were there and they were chanting justice for Gabby.
right. So they were following. I mean, they couldn't have planted anything. There's too many people watching them, but it's just so hard to believe that
The other
it
reason
is
people are saying that it was planted was because it was closed off until public. It became open till public yesterday and then closed
right.
off again. So I guess the theory would be, even if Christopher and Roberta didn't plant it, they had somebody to
Maybe
go
had
plant
somebody
it.
go in the night before. I mean, listen, anything is possible in this case. I don't know. Is
It's
it that
it's like
easy?
it's stretching, like, about the bunker thing to me. It's like a little stretch for me.
Yeah, is it that easy that he just went in and he killed himself? I mean, that means he's been really gone a month almost. Really.
Well, he may have tried to survive, or maybe he did do that, but if it was his remains, and that's yet to be fully determined, but if it was his remains, it was underwater for a while. So
Oh, I do want to say Don, the caller, he's a great caller. I like listening to him.
I like when he calls in. Sunny74 sent the super chat. How often does Don call in? I like your conduct. Great jobs. Thank you, Sunny74. Don calls in pretty regularly. He doesn't call in every episode, but he's probably
Mhm.
about half of the episodes, I would say. Wouldn't you, Cindy, that he's called in?
Yeah, he's got great, and I think he's got a lot of wisdom and insight in the stuff that we don't have.
I mean,
He's
he
seen
has
another
experience,
side.
and it's clear that he knows a lot about policies, procedures, even body
Hmm.
type stuff. So I appreciate when he calls in. Plus,
Yeah.
he has a great voice people like listening to as well.
Yeah. He's got definitely great perspective on everything. A different view. I mean, everybody's got their own view. It's just a crazy case. And it's still ongoing. We don't know if it's him. It's not going to be what anybody wants as far as answers. The book, I mean, if it was under all the water, I don't know if there would be anything left to be found in it.
They said
The notebook,
there's plenty of experts that say they can salvage it, which would be great if there's any clues in there. And I
anything
would
in
hope
there.
that we would be given access to it. Now, Cindy, is your heart breaking for the Petito Schmidt family tonight?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, for everybody involved, really, it's just it's a crazy case. Like Don was saying, it'll probably be made movies and this and that. I think there was just so many moving parts, and I still believe it is connected to that Kylan and Crystal case too. I said that from the beginning.
We'll find
Um,
out.
Interesting. But anyway, I'm going to let you go. I know there's definitely other people
Mhm.
watching. Hi to fellow fam. I definitely appreciate this channel. Uh,
Thank you, Cindy.
you have a good night, Tyler.
If you guys haven't done so, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. Diane, you're live and on the air. How are you?
I'm doing well, Tyler. How are you?
I'm doing well. So what are your thoughts about everything today?
First of all, my thought starts with yesterday. So the Laundries go to the grocery store, they go to the AT&T store, they go to the bank, and then they go to FedEx.
They were gone for 4 to 5 hours.
FedEx has mailboxes that you can rent. Now, they could have had Brian's stuff hidden in those mailboxes all this time. I've never heard the FBI say they investigated, to see if they had something in a box like that. I'm sorry about my throat. The pollen's killing me.
It's okay. Maybe that's what's going on with my throat too.
But I kept thinking about people who say, I love the Laundries. The Laundries are wonderful. Oh, the best people in the world. Someone could have easily gone to their met them at FedEx, met them at AT&T, and that strange looking bag doesn't look like something that Brian would have carried out in the woods with him. I mean, if your parents saw you leaving with a waterproof bag, wouldn't they have been suspicious?
They may have not saw him leaving, but
Yeah.
the part about I always want to take it back to the question that Chris Cuomo asked Stephen Bertolino, and it's not a good enough answer for me. While Brian was still around, while he was still in the household, why on earth did those people not respond to the Petito Schmidt's request to find out where Gabby was? And him saying, the buck stopped with me and I told them not to, is not a good enough response to me. And as a parent to parent, there's something very, very, very unsettling to me about that.
Bertolino got almost angry when he started talking about.
Got cocky.
Yeah, he did. He did. And he was kind of rude to Cuomo. And I believe that they knew quite early on, maybe even before Brian got in the van and started home, and that they started planning. They had Bertolino lined up. And if Brian's dead, which I'm not convinced, I still think that something Jesse Waters said today, he was talking about all the things that the Laundries would have done to help Brian along the way. And he said that because this was a federal crime that he's charged with, that if they helped him in any way, whether it was providing him food to take with him or a burner for any way at all, that they faced 15 years in federal prison, both parents.
Wow.
Because it's a federal crime to aid, and that's considered aid and abetting.
Cookie Monster sent this super chat, was talking about all this unfolding, a full moon. Lawyer and parents hadn't heard from him. And he says the Notebook will be turned into a for-profit book.
I looked up how long it takes paper to disintegrate in the brackish water, the acidic water. And it's like, if it's 1 or 2 sheets, it can dissolve in 30 seconds. If it's a thick stack, it can take like 4. Yeah. But see, now yours is covered in leather. What are the chances? His is probably.
I would say he had nice notebooks because artists have good notebooks usually.
I don't know. I have one son who's an artist, and he buys the the big tear off sheets and stuff.
Okay.
But and that's a different kind of paper completely. But within hours, it said. So now you're thinking it could have been under the water for 2 weeks or for 30 days. We don't know how long it was in that area. But I do believe that the evidence was planted.
Mm-hmm.
Roberta was walking straight down that, if you look at your screen there, that trail that they drove on so many times when looking for him.
Yep.
And Chris is over, he's beating the bushes. That's not a hiking trail where he was going.
Right.
He was pushing bushes out of the way like crazy and he seemed to be in a hurry. He knew what he was going for, and then they let both Chris and her hold the evidence bag. If you see when they're standing there talking to the man, she opens it and looks inside, and of course you're watching from behind, but both of them are handling that bag. So if any fingerprints show up that are really fresh, they can say, well, I didn't mean to touch it. I didn't know I shouldn't have touched it.
I guess the DNA of the remains is going to answer a lot of questions, and it depends on what type of remains it is as well.
Well, you were asking about remains, and I had looked earlier today because when the FBI said that it appeared to be, and then the news people said possibly, and then they said It seems to be everyone used a different word.
I was trying to use the exact word
I
the
know.
FBI was using because that to me is the most precise.
Well, and so I wrote all those down, and then I looked up, because they were not implying that it was a large amount. That it was just bits of body pieces. When you say it appears to be human remains, to me, there's enough missing that you're not sure if it's animal or human. So
Right.
I looked up online. There are 218 million pages where you can buy bones, human bones. And so I went to the top one, which was called like the Boneyard or something. I don't know. A rib is $10. A kneecap is $15. The long bones in your legs can be $200 to $300. Toes and fingers start at $5 to $12, depending on how many knuckles you want. The pelvis is $500, and teeth are $6 each. They can be shipped anywhere in the United States except Georgia, Tennessee, and Louisiana. 218 million pages selling human bones. So, I mean, that's getting really crazy. You want to talk conspiracy theory.
Just so everybody knows, Diane's a former world-class journalist. And so when she calls in, we perk our ears open and we want to listen to what she has to say because she does do her research.
Well, I try.
218 million.
I have a whole sheet of things, but what I did was as it was addressed, I marked it off. So I would try not to talk about the same thing. The final thing is that when they were standing with the police officer who had put his hand on Chris's shoulder, neither one of them appeared to show emotion.
Well, TK just sent this super chat and said, Tyler, this is all just so surreal. They found items of their sons in a body possibly was found or whatever. Where are the tears? There's just no emotion. And Diane, it's hard for me because like they're in this mode where if let's say they're in the most innocent mode, you just get in a frenzy in your mind. And I can't tell you how many people I've been with when people have passed. And sometimes that emotion's just not exhibited. I'm not trying to stick up for him, but I don't want that to be like a big clue piece.
Well, my husband has been sick many, many times. He's been septic twice a couple of years ago and almost died 2 times in 2 months. And when the doctors would tell me, oh, he's got a 30% chance of living, I was really strong and, said all the right things. And then they'd walk out of the room and I just crumble.
Yeah. It was like my uncle who just passed away from COVID. It's like everyone in my family was being so strong and until after the funeral. And then it was like.
But that's when it becomes real.
Became real. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but, I believe that he was responsible for the girls' deaths. I still do. I believe that he thinks that they called the authorities and that he went over, he killed them, and that's why he went home.
We'll be finding more information out about that too, and I hope, maybe we can get Sean Paul or somebody on here that can, which is Kylan's dad, and then maybe be able to find some information out about some more details that we don't know.
Maybe more people will come forward once they start seeing it like they have for Gabby.
And I'm trying to do a good job of doing that. I pulled apart the part where I went over their aunt's timeline that she sent me and shared that with folks yesterday. I think we had not as many people view that video, but the other video I made of Kyla and Crystal had 76,000 views. And so that was really good, I thought.
Yeah, I missed the notice. So I watched it. I went back instead of starting in the middle. I went back and watched it once you put it on, when it wasn't live. So I did see that. So
Mary says, do you think it's possible that Chris planted the items when he went into the Carlton Reserve? Just a thought, too hinky for me.
I think it was planted last night. And, I don't want to use names because that would be inflammatory or gossip or whatever. But someone who just really loved the Laundries, or when they went to the bank, maybe they got some cash and they paid someone to go put it out there. But Christopher knew exactly where to go and she's just walking down the middle of the road like nothing's going on. So I just, I watched the body language and it didn't jive with me. So, but I wish Brian was alive because I would love to see him go to court and be able to give the Petitos what they need.
I know. I want answers for the Petitos.
And then a chance too for him to be witness to. I think he's ill. I really do. But, the Lord can heal that and change his heart. And even if he had to spend the rest of his life in prison, at least it's better than hell.
I know. I saw Nicholas Cruz, he pleaded guilty today for the Parkland school shooting, and he's basically said, "I'm tormented because of what I done." Mary, thank you for that super chat. And this is another one of those situations. It's like maybe that life in prison would have given him a moment of him sort of figuring out how to return back. Frank says this: we've previously discussed here that the 2 girls in Moab were different MO, but now we've learned that all 3 bodies were found without pants and underwear. So that's Don Caesar was saying that. Again, that's unverified about Gabby. He was using sort of inside information about that.
Well,
if that is true, there is a linking there.
But also, now I'm old, but when I was younger, I would sleep in like a long shirt and not pajama bottoms, especially when it was warm.
I thought that too. Yeah. I thought that too.
It's almost like a pajama top or a little shorty nightgown. Those were real popular when I was younger.
But it was very cold, Diane, at night there. I think it was
It got down to like 40 something that night.
Yeah, she read the temperatures one night. It's like, that's pretty cold. Like, for me, that'd be cold to be out in a tent. Like, I would be wearing sweatpants. And I like it cold.
I like it cold too. Yeah.
So, Diane, you're so incredible, and we love you, and thank you for being a part of the
Love you too. When will you hear back about your heart results?
I got some results. They were not very good. I got to go to the doctor next week, so we'll see what happens. So
praying about that.
Yeah, thank you for asking.
Okay.
Have a good evening.
You too, sweetie. Bye-bye.
Wow, guys. I love having Diane on. We've had great callers, great insight on here tonight. Just incredible. I appreciate the super chats coming in. I want to shout out Elizabeth Meyer, too, who sent over something on PayPal just as a way to say thank you. And shout out Kathy Thompson, who made the purchase of a Don't Stop book. It means so much that you guys were able to do that. The FBI did label Gabby Petito's death today, if you guys paid attention, and it's something we hadn't talked about. They did label the death today as a murder, and they didn't ever do that before. They did not label it as a murder. Obviously, we knew it was a murder because of what the coroner said, but the FBI hadn't came out and made a statement. I want to thank you, CJ, for sending over $2.50 on the Cash App. Thank you so much for that. It means a whole lot. I love the Cash App too. I'm just kind of getting used to using it, but I really like it. Denise, thank you so much for the super sticker. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Lily says, take care of your health. I'm trying, doing my best. It's not an easy task. Jake, how are you?
Good. Can you hear me?
Are you Jake from State Farm or a different Jake? I'm
not Jake from State Farm.
Okay.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Hey, Tyler. Thanks for your stream and everything. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for calling.
I just want to throw some logic on this whole idea that the parents planted these items, right? So either you think that they planted the items and threw a rotting corpse in the woods with those items, or they just somehow magically happened to plant items near a corpse. Neither of those things make any sense. So let's just use our heads here a little more clearly, right? Do you see where I'm going with this?
At this point, it's like I understand what you're saying, and I understand the other perspective of it too, like what basically perspective Diane was just saying, because when we look at the sort of the rap sheet or what we know about the Laundrie family, there's a whole lot about them that didn't sit well with any of us. And for me, I can't help it. but agree with that. It's like, we know as a fact that they knew that their son came home without their future daughter-in-law, and the parents of that daughter-in-law was calling, asking them where they're at. And instead of responding at all, they just completely dismissed it after over 40 911 calls
No,
and
I'm
a
not
child
saying.
missing report person.
I
Then they
think,
say, oh, our lawyer told us not to talk. It
yeah.
felt really bad. And so in that perspective, it's like people don't trust the Laundrie family.
No,
And
I
that's
get
why
that. I get
people are
that.
saying
But
that.
you'd have to believe that they threw their son's rotting corpse into the woods, right? That's absurd.
Well,
Come on. Come on.
theoretically, from what people are saying, somebody else's rotting corpse into the woods. Zelda, thank you for the
But
super
why would they
chat.
do that? Because they can test the DNA and see that it's not Brian. So none of that
Right.
makes sense.
That's what I keep coming back to. I'm like, yo,
It doesn't make
as
any sense. So
soon as we figure out how I don't know how long it takes to figure out this DNA, the FBI agent says it's going to be a long, long time of us here investigating this or whatever he said. Like, I hope it's not that long, because people want answers, and you guys just got us all riled. You got the internet sleuths riled up again, FBI. So we'll see what
yeah,
happens.
we're gonna find out in 1 or 2 days that it's Brian Laundrie and he committed suicide out there, and that's the end of it.
I tend to lean towards what you're saying, but I'm also speaking up for others who are not on the same side as you. And
I mean, you got to
I'm
apply logic here.
largely holding
Like,
my opinion until
see
I know
them
more
going out
information.
there and throwing a rotting corpse that's not Brian, or like, it just doesn't make any sense. Come on.
Thank you for calling in, Jake.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Yep. Detective Chick, how are you?
Hi, can you hear me?
Are you actually a detective?
I am, yes.
Like with an agency and all that?
Yes, I am.
Are you allowed to say what agency?
I prefer not to. Just, you never know who's listening. So
Okay, well, give us some insight.
yeah, so I actually heard, and I'm not sure if any of you heard, the Laundries allegedly got a phone call saying, where he was out there. And that's when they called the FBI and said, oh, hey, we need to go look in this spot. We got a phone call from whomever it was,
I
which I'm
haven't
sure.
heard that from, like, I've heard that twice now.
Yeah.
Before what you told me, I haven't had a source for that one.
Yeah, I don't have a source either. I've heard it on multiple, TV, stations, journalists, etc. Of course, they'll figure that out, if that is true. But yeah, it's just all so bizarre to me. I mean, they searched that area so thoroughly. Those canines, they would have found, any scent of him. They would have found the backpack. They would have found, even if that was, I mean, I don't know how much water coverage there was, but even after the water kind of subsided, they were out there. So I just don't see how it's like, oh, boom, here it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely their body language. Oh, God bless. Is it Diane? She's just the sweetest lady.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with her with the body language, just very, very off. This whole thing it almost seems like a ruse. Like it seems unreal.
Right.
And I actually had the opportunity to speak with a family member of Kylan's, and I'm not going to say who. Say I asked them if I could say, but they said just don't say the name. So I'm not going to do that, with their wishes. But so that's really strange too. I mean, the keys that were found at the scene to that gym, well, the family actually did the work. The police didn't. The Mohab police are just doing nothing, it seems. But the family, I guess they found out that those keys did not belong to Brian, and the gym does know who they belong to, and the police have not even called to ask them. They have not even called. And I asked the family member, I said, so and the family member said, I personally don't want to know the name, but everyone else in the family knows it. But I don't want the name because I'll go down a rabbit hole. And I said, I completely agree. I would too. It would probably mess me up to
The
know
private
that.
investigator came out and ruled out that the keys were connected at all. So
Right. So, that kind of gives me peace of mind a bit because, I just feel so bad for their family, just as with Gabby's. But, it's like the police are doing nothing for Kylan and Crystal. It almost makes me wonder if they're in on it somehow, if it was one of their brothers or, a family member of one of the officers or something. And I hate to say that, but the way it's being handled, it almost seems that may be the case because they're doing nothing, absolutely nothing. I mean, have they even done, rape kits yet? No, they haven't. I mean, what is happening? It makes no sense. So, but at least we know Brian most likely wasn't involved with that, which, then brings me back to, again, with Gabby, it was most likely a crime of passion. It was
yeah, I think you're
definitely.
saying a lot of stuff that, we're up to speed on in a lot of ways. I do appreciate your perspective. There's some other people on the call. So do you have one final thought you want to share?
No, that's fine. You can take their calls.
Thank you for calling in today.
All right. Thanks, Taylor. God bless.
You too. Clark, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Going well. Thank you for calling in today. Been
Yeah,
crazy. How have you processed this afternoon since we spoke earlier?
I'm still just processing stuff. I wanted to address a couple of callers back about the, throwing a corpse out in the woods or whatever. Nobody said it was a corpse. They said partial remains. So, I mean, that could be a finger, a toe, a hand, or something. We don't know if a whole body has been discovered or not. That's one thing I think we should probably keep clear here. Another thing, I think a good clue as to this notebook and stuff is the fact that they identified it as Brian's right away.
Mm-hmm.
So that would tell me that either if it's been sitting out there, especially in a swamp for that long, it was protected somehow, or it was recently put out there. Otherwise, it would just be a mushy mess if it was just out there in the elements for that long. And they identified it right away. So whether it's because they read what was in it, a drawing on the cover or something, but it was in good condition to identify it as his right away.
And they probably knew it was his backpack or whatever.
Right. But even if a backpack submerged in that kind of water for a month, I would imagine just a regular notebook that you buy at Walmart or something. I mean, that paper is going to be mush. It's not going to be anything in that amount of time. So either it was put out there just very recently, or it was protected somehow from the elements to be able to identify it. It was in good shape. And the only other thing I wanted to ask you about is, what are your thoughts on, well, the previous caller had brought it up and stuff about the cops not doing much out in Moab. What do you think about possibly, it's not a family member or anything like that, but just, I mean, this is Utah, and maybe because it might, I don't know Moab, but if it's very Mormon or something, they may not really care.
We had
unfortunately, they may just be like, I don't care. I mean, these people were a blight in our community anyways. I don't want to get too graphic and stuff, but
there was a caller last night that called in pretty late and made that case pretty heavily. Like it had to do with that sort of like exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Lifestyle choices versus.
Yes. It's not that they necessarily did anything to them, but they may not be really concerning themselves too much about solving it. To them, it may just be kind of like a, well, good riddance type thing.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know. I don't want to accuse them of that, but it's just food for thought that, it may be.
I process it like I live in a small town. There was an officer involved shooting in my town last night, actually, while we were on the stream. I didn't know it. And then I found out about it today, and several of them attend my church. So I didn't want to bring it up too much. I just said, I'm praying for you guys. I don't know exactly what happened, but somebody was injured, but no police officer was. And that's very rare. That's one time that it's happened since I've been here, for many years. So it's very rare. Similar in size and where I live compared to Moab, and it's like small town police agencies are not really built to do this. There should have been some state agencies involved, in my opinion, or federal
Right.
agencies.
Yeah, that I live in a small town too, and I think they'd have a hard time also with something like that. But my main thing was the notebook. It just, for them to identify it right away as his, it had to be in good shape. So that would be good for us if it is his and it was protected, that maybe there's some stuff written in there that we'll find out about and get some answers to stuff.
Yeah. Thank you, Clark, for calling
Yeah,
in.
definitely.
Athena says all 3 girls may have been shot. We don't know if Gabby was also shot. Could also be an additional cause of death they've been holding back. So, I mean, that's a theory. We don't know for sure, right? Avery, how are you?
Hey,
I want
wanted
to
to.
shout out real fast Flying Songbird, who sent a super sticker and said they were my number 1 fan. Thank you for that.
Oh,
Flying
awesome.
Songbird.
I thought I was your number one fan.
I guess you guys can fight over it. And I also want to shout out Sandra picked up the Don't Stop book, and then Loretta sent money on the Cash App. Thank you, Loretta, for the Cash App. I just started using it. I really like it. So what are
Oh,
your
awesome.
thoughts, Avery?
Okay. So, well, first I wanted to say I am an investigator and I work for the Tyler Feller show.
But you're a clinical psychologist too, so don't let it.
Oh yeah. Got to
Don't
throw
let
that one in there.
don't let your credentials undermine what you're doing. So
Right. So there's just a couple things that I wanted to clarify, only because my nerdy little brain has studied a lot of this. Who was it that said about water moccasin nest? Somebody
Don
just
Caesar, the U.S. Marshal that called in.
okay. So water moccasins do not stay together. They're solitary. They don't nest. But what happens? So like I've been to the Carlton Reserve, and like waste level water is considered like low. That's considered low water.
Did you
And
go
that's
there because of this case, or you just had
oh
ironically previously been there?
yeah, we've just been there. Yeah,
Wow.
just traveling. But so low waters like that is where alligators congregate, because now they will congregate together. And when they go into these bodies of waters, they shoot out everything. Water moccasins, everything. I mean, they scat. They're gone because, they'll eat them. And then if there are like if there is a human body that they find, they don't fight over it. Like I guess the alligator with seniority would get it. They take it underneath the water and they wedge it like underneath anything they can find, a rock, a log, anything, for it can go up to 30 days, because they're tenderizing it, because alligators only eat soft, materials. So you have to figure in that time, and then the amount of time that the body would stay in the alligator's stomach. I mean, that can go on for a long time. They're still finding victims from the hurricane in Louisiana inside of alligators' stomach.
Wow.
Yeah. So whenever the alligator does get finished and starts, spitting out the bones and whatever belongings were on this person, I mean, the alligator's going to travel all over that park. So they could be everywhere, literally everywhere, and then probably very damaged. So I just wanted to, kind of.
Nita says this: would an alligator eat the bones? It's not easy to process the possibility, so they would spit out the bones.
They won't. They'll spit them.
Thank you, Nita, for that super chat. What about, I've watched these shows in Florida where these enormous pythons sneak into backyards, and they're enormous.
Yeah.
Is that a possibility?
I don't know. I'm not really sure on that one. But I do know I do know from like living in Alabama and going to the creeks that I have seen alligators attack kids, teenagers. I have witnessed people losing their arms. I mean, that's why we don't go to creeks, but they do attack people. They're not exactly scared of humans.
Today's been a lot to process, hasn't it?
It has been a lot, and I'm from watching the responses of everybody just to the fact that this might be Brian and watching how everybody has reacted, I'm thinking that if we get hit with another like huge twist, say for instance, DNA comes back on Gabby that doesn't match Brian, I'm thinking a lot of us are going to need therapy.
I know. Yeah. Like, welcome. It's now your pastoral counseling session tonight from Pastor Tyler Feller. Like that.
Right. Yeah, but this has been like my biggest fear. You know, I've called in a few times, like regarding the Laundries. I don't agree with their silence, but I have, like I've told you before, it has just weighed so heavy on my heart because what if they really didn't know anything? What if their child really is dead? What if, which I doubt, but what if he is innocent? What have these people just been put through? You know, like
small likelihood that on all of those fronts coming true, but
yeah.
Athena, who's an attorney, says, I'm an attorney, Tyler. They often hold back other cause of death for their own evidential reasons.
Right.
That's great to know, Athena. Thank you for that super chat. I wasn't aware of that. So, and there was some speculation by several people that there's more to the story of the Dr. Brent Blue no longer working at the hospital, and he was, you know, messing up a little bit as a coroner in some areas. So I would love to hear some perspectives on that a bit. Like,
yeah, I think that he did everything in his power, which is why it took so long to bring in as many outside professionals to make sure that he covered his bases all the way around. I don't think that that's the case. I mean, I was looking where he's been nominated for like awards and things like that when I was looking him up.
So you think he's like legit?
Yeah. I mean, I understand he shot at his wife, but he's human, you know?
Very interesting. So
yeah,
there's a lot. So how do you process the Laundrie family not responding to the Petito calls when their son was alive and in their house?
Yeah.
That's the part that I just can't reconcile.
Well, I think about it this way. Like if I was in that situation with my child, I wouldn't know how to react. And if I had an attorney, I mean, most people usually listen to attorneys. I mean, that's just usually what you do because,
well, that's what Chris Cuomo asked Bertolino. Do your clients ever not listen to you or whatever? And he was like, never had a problem. They listen to what I say. I'm their attorney.
Yeah, I mean, I know I would, and I've only had an attorney like for divorce, but you know, I listened to them word for word. If they told me, "Don't you dare talk to him about, you know, such and such," well, I didn't. I think it would be very hard for them. I think that, you know, they've probably wanted to break down and talk, but if they're being told by both an attorney and the FBI not to talk, and then within days the whole world is against them, where's their chance to, you know, even if they did change their mind, they couldn't come out their front door and open their mouth without being attacked.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I would just hate to see it go that way and know that, you know, these people have been suffering.
Somebody in the chat saying like, why would anybody hire an attorney if they weren't going to listen to them? And that's a good point. In this case, they have even more reason, I would say, to listen to him because they have 20 years of a friendship with him. And so you're more likely to trust somebody that you have a long-term relationship with than just a brand. I don't know, maybe Athena can give us some insight, but.
And I don't think that he is a hired attorney per se. I think that he's a family attorney on retainer. I think he's just there all the time. So I don't think it's like they called and, you know, like signed paperwork to hire him. I think he's just their family attorney that's always on retainer. And since they do a lot of real estate transactions, you know, that would make sense.
Yeah.
The only other thing I wanted to say is about Gabby not having pants. Okay, so I do believe that man is a U.S. Marshal. However, I think he could be in a little bit of trouble for releasing that if that is the case. But
well, you would think nobody would leak out information to him that they didn't expect to be leaked out to public, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, those people.
He wouldn't be in trouble probably if it was insider information, then whoever gave it to him. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Somebody would be in trouble. And then how would we know if it wasn't an animal, took off with so I think that's a big leap there. Um, and I didn't really like to hear that because I think it's insinuating that, something sexually was done to her. And I think that's a huge leap. And I think that we don't need to assume those kinds of things. We need to leave that to the professionals.
I do hope they give us more information about what happened. Maraid sends a super chat. Thank you, Maraid, for the super chat. She said maybe Brian Laundrie only died 24 to 48 hours ago. Maybe lost contact with Brian Laundrie, and that's why Christopher and Roberta went today. Also, they were followed all the way by Mike Fox News.
See, I don't think so because you have to think about what you have in the Carlton Reserve, and alligators are primarily the biggest thing. I mean, I've seen them in there myself. There's just no way that he would go straight to bones in that quick of time. Anything else that's in that reserve, alligators eat them. So I know there's other predators, but for the most part, the biggest concern is alligators.
Maria sends a super chat and says, Avery, you're working for the show that has no name.
I know.
I thought that was
know.
funny. Avery, thank you for calling in.
You're welcome. Bye.
Have a good night. Guys, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot that we're unpacking here. And man alive. Everybody has different opinions about what they think about certain things. And everybody has different opinions on how this is going to shape up. And so we're entertaining those ideas, we're entertaining those theories, but we're going to be building out today and in the coming days as many facts around this, and that's going to be the staple. However, we do want some more information. I hope we have some release of information about, the DNA as soon as possible. That to me is like the biggest issue. That's going to solve all of our questions. Right now, all they did was give us more questions. I want to shout out Sandra, who made a purchase of the Don't Stop book. Thank you. And then Scott Eller on Cash App sent $2.50 for Psalm 91. Thank you, Scott, for doing that. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. I think there's a lot that needs to be explained in this situation from all sides. Mayberry, you're on the air. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to hear from you.
Good, thanks. First time I've watched your show, I found you on YouTube. I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
So my thing is, and I don't know, this is kind of, some people say far-fetched, but I seen a case one time where the police, this woman had hired a hitman to kill her husband. And the police found out about it. I guess the hitman went and told the police. And they actually went and hired it was like a Hollywood movie makeup artist. I don't know if you've heard about it or not, but I think it was on like a Dateline show or something. And they actually staged the man's death, showing he was shot in the head. And the hitman went back and showed her the picture. And so that's how they caught her in the act of killing this man. And I'm just wondering if maybe you think the FBI, so when did they find the backpack and everything? Did they find it first and then they told them they found the remains, or did they find it all at the same time?
They called Christopher and Roberta out there, however that worked. And then we saw a video today of the officer saying, we think we may have found something. And then they went in a group of 4 and just went searching for more stuff. And so there were 2 locations of tents where remains were found. And then obviously they came back with that bag of stuff. So,
because that's what I'm wondering, if they found the bag and everything first, and the FBI could have said, could have told them that they found remains to kind of watch their reaction or kind of track them from here on out to see if they could get in contact with them. Do you see what I'm trying to say? I mean, that might be far-fetched, but
it's too far-fetched for me, honestly. I don't want to go. I don't want it. It's like, I can't go there with you. I do appreciate your insight. And listen, we need people like you thinking about things from angles that I'm not thinking about, because who knows what could happen. So I do appreciate you calling into the show, though.
I just remember seeing that, and I was thinking that. And also people were asking why he would have ran if he wasn't guilty. Well, I mean, something happened to your girlfriend, maybe they had a fight, something happened and he just freaked out, I don't know. It's just the whole situation is weird and
Yep. Thank you for
it's just
calling in,
crazy.
Mayberry.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Jennifer, how are you?
Good. How are you, Tyler?
I'm doing well.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
First of all, you had a caller in a couple minutes ago who was speaking of feeling bad for the Laundries, and I am one of those. I feel real bad if they're gonna find a passed away son. I don't think that anybody wins in this whole situation. The one thing that I felt maybe could be tied in here, I believe it is Brian, or if there are the remains there, because I remember how they went about it with Gabby. So I don't think that they would even put human remains found, that type of thing. I don't know. I don't think any of us are ever going to know anything from day one till now. I just don't think it's all going to come together where it's going to be like a movie. But my gut feeling from the crowds to me seem to be increasing in the way that their aggressiveness. And I was thinking, what if they were brought there? I don't want to do the what ifs, but if they were brought there and had to identify something, but then had to continue to keep it under wraps because of the obvious. They hadn't even identified anything, and you had people screaming justice for Gabby.
Yeah,
And
I know.
so they're almost, in my opinion, in a position of danger, and it is not to at all excuse what happened with Gabby at all. My heart and soul, I'm sorry for that. I just gotta say though, because I don't want, today I had such a hard day with this. I had to just turn it all off and focus on my work and not even look at it until I turned on, I believe, you just now, and then maybe one other one earlier. All I needed to see was that headline, and I knew where all of this was going to go with speculation, and the
Right.
speculation's
Me too.
burning me out a little bit.
Me too.
Straight, I can tell. I can totally tell with you, and my heart goes out to you right now. But I don't think that either one of the families have been forthright, and I'm sorry. And this is no disrespect to the Petitos, but it just seems to be a real there's a lot of unknowns, and all we have are clips that are supposed to be a social media page
Yeah.
of fun and laughter and vacation. And so that hurts my heart, because that is my gut, that they had to go identify something. They had to go read something extremely painful. See, at home, I don't know why, and I'm not trying to be for either side. It just makes me so sad that
it's a heartbreaking case from every angle that you look at it, and there's so many reasons why it's captivated America. And I'm with you, Jennifer. We got to stick to the facts, and it's okay to try to figure out some of the loopholes we don't know. And when you do that, it's speculation. People have a hard time differentiating the two, but there's times when you can go down and it's acceptable, and then there's times where it's just like a complete fiction thing. And in my mind, I know what those lines are, and I guess sometimes other people have a hard time figuring that out. But for me,
they do.
It's like I need the anchors of it, and then we can say we know these things are the facts. So what around it could make sense? I appreciate you calling in today, Jennifer. I hope you're having a good evening.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yep. Thank you. Bye. R660, thank you for the super chat. You say, I think the parents lost contact with Brian Laundrie, and that's why they headed out there. That might have been the last place he said he was, but they were very calm. Yeah. I mean, somebody else was saying that earlier too. I appreciate your super chat. You're not the only one who said that. So you're not in a club by yourself. At least I'll say that. Solace is saying Avery's a good caller, and she did a lot of work the other day, today and the other day. She does a lot of really good work, trying to help us get to the bottom of different areas and different thoughts. Male 2020 says this: Hey, Tyler Feller, just to confirm, the area of findings could not be examined 2 weeks ago due to ground swamp. The search resumed today as arranged between the FBI and Laundrie parents. So that's what Stephen Bertolino said. So you're saying as of October 19th, so as of yesterday. Fester is saying, did the parents lead them to that specific area? This is the same specific area that Christopher Laundrie, even some time ago, had been with searching. It's the same area that yesterday Brian Inton was walking through. And so definitely definitely some ways to think about that. Mascara Wine and True Crime says, I have not been for the Laundries for 1 second, but I don't wish child loss on anyone. My heart goes out to the Petito Schmidt family. I think everybody's feeling a bit like that today. Mascara Wine and True Crime. It's just something that's resting in our hearts. And for me, I'm heartbroken about it. Ron says, I'm amazed at how so many people use and love the Amber Alert system. Yet it has been so long, most don't know the story. Gabby will become a shining light. Southern Gal Jen, how are you?
Hey, doing pretty good. Hope you're doing well.
What are your thoughts today?
Well, I've had a lot of thoughts today. I'm kind of 50-50, probably about like everybody else. I'm honestly starting to feel bad for the Laundries. I do have kids around that age, and I would hate to be in that situation for sure. But I would
How could
also
you
hate
not?
to be on Gabby's family side either. I mean, I think it's a lose-lose no matter where it goes. And I want to just don't stop, you guys. Remember,
Don't stop. That's the name of
what
my hoodie
Tyler,
and the
that's
name of my
right.
book.
That's right. I've already bought more for Christmas gifts, you guys.
Yay. Thank you so much.
But, we can't give up hope and just keep the faith. And I felt a little bit of that today when, the FBI came on. It was like, oh, we were going to get this big announcement. And then it was like, I even had my family members that were following it and said, well, that was nothing. And I said, well, there's going to be something though, because I just feel like God's going to make a way. Whether we find DNA of him from today's finds or in other ways, or if we don't, it's just in my faith that whatever happens on the other side, when someone passes away, they will be judged then.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I want to leave it at. And God bless you for your channel. I'm praying for everybody. Thank you, Jen, Jennifer, and Cameron. You guys rock as mods. Thank you.
We have great mods. Thank you for calling in.
All right.
We do have really great mods on the channel. I want to shout them out. You guys are amazing. Thank you guys for making sure we're sticking true to everything that we got going on. Janice, thank you so much for the Get Well super chat. I'm trying to get well. I'm doing my best. I'm trying to pretend like nothing's wrong with me just so that I don't succumb in my own mental state of knowing that I got stuff wrong with me. And I'm also working on getting healthy, but that's just some of the ways you got to handle things sometimes. And really this community that we're building here has been helpful to me because it gives us an outlet to have these wonderful conversations that we're having together. And that's really meaningful. So thank you, Janice, for that super chat. And, guys, so much news today. The medical examiner called, coroner called down to do the search. My goodness, there's a lot that we're talking about. Sai, you're live and on the air on the show that has no name. How are you? Okay, you got to be unmuted if you call in. Lacey, are you there?
Hi, good evening, Tyler. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Thank you for calling in.
We're all praying for you. You got to
Thank you.
get well. We want you here. We love you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I called because I love Diane. I listened to her and I listened to the Don Caesar, if I'm saying his name right.
Uh-huh.
And I agree with both of them on a lot of stuff, but I agree with Diane 1,000,000%. And the caller that said that, it'd be crazy that they would throw bones, blah, blah, blah. No, I think Diane's onto it. I think it's planted. And it doesn't matter what I think. I mean, it just all stinks. But what you don't know, you were showing on your show earlier, I think it was with Mr. Caesar, the video with Kumo and that man, the
Uh-huh. Yeah.
lawyer.
Yeah.
All
That was
right.
when Kim was on. Yeah.
Okay. Well, tonight on it's called Duty Ron. He
Uh-huh.
had ex-PD man from New York, NYPD, anyhow, Ed Wallace, and he talked to the FBI out there. And you need to watch it because what he says is different than what Mr. Caesar said.
Well,
He
give
said,
me a basic rundown.
okay, that Roberta picked up the bag and picked up an item on the ground and put it in the bag, contaminated it, then met with the guy out there on that road. And then, she had her hands in it, pulling stuff up and this and that. And then they tried to cover it and stuff. You need to listen to what he says because I'm not remembering everything exactly, but it was totally different. And I believe Roberta, what Diane said when she's talking about the bank, the mailbox, paying somebody, blah, 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 all her thought. And she really looked into it. You know that, and I know that. Everybody knows it. She's very thorough. Stuff I would have not even, I questioned the FedEx thing. But when she said the mailbox, then I'm thinking about what Mr. Wallace said on Duty Ron's show. I mean, I about dropped my teeth.
Well,
Because,
Diane is a world-class
oh, God,
attorney.
yes. I didn't know that, but I know now. Now I'm going to really look into her. She's, anyhow, everything that she said, I believe. And the lady that donates to you, is her name Avery, or how do
Yeah,
you
Avery.
love her? She had a lot of good points too. And oh my God, love you, girl.
She's a psychologist.
Oh my God. Well, she's right on the money too. And she coincides with Diane big time, even though her thoughts were different. But if you think about everything they said, and I'm thinking about what Mr. Wallace said, and I had to bring it up to you because you've got to watch it. And then you give your opinion on it. I would love to hear what you think about it because her picking up that bag, she picked it up. And when Mr. Laundrie loaded up this morning, versus what the lawyer said, that he called the law last night and told them they were going to be there in the morning. Well, did the Landrys call them up saying they were going out there for him to know to call the police?
I've heard it both ways, honestly.
It makes no sense. Well, on Duty Ron, they were saying that they're the ones that went out there and didn't notify anybody, according to what the FBI said, and then called them after they got out there to meet them out there. They were already out there.
See, that wasn't true according to Bertolino's statement.
I know, but that's where the lie is from the crooked lawyer.
So
Because
the Bertolino, this is what
Mr.
was reported by Brian Inton. Bertolino says that his clients called him yesterday and said they wanted to search the reserve since it was back open.
Mhm.
Bertolino says he called the police and told them the Laundries would be at the reserve at 7 a.m. today. He says police met them there.
No, because that's not what Mr. Wallace says the FBI man said to him today.
Well, the Northport police would have been who met him out. I'm just saying, like, I've trusted Brian Inton, and I'm just telling you what
Well,
he was
I
reporting.
believe what Brian said, that they said to him, but we know everybody's not telling it straight up. And every time you get something from a different person, this man was talking to him while they were out there. And, Roberta, they've got her on film, and they were doing that live. And they were saying, well, it's really interesting because he just got off the phone with them and blah, blah, blah. And that's why I'm telling you. Anyway.
The coroner came out with a statement about 30 minutes ago and said, with luck, it could be a day or two, but it could also be longer. So that's how long it says
I
it will
heard that today
identify
too,
their
about
remains.
as for the bones and all that stuff. But I'm not even talking about the body, just the bag. Because the father this morning, when he loaded up, look at the video of him getting in his truck. He's got a white bag. He puts a white bag in the car. And I thought, well, and they found a white bag and it's not in bad condition. Like Mr. Wallace said, they question all of that. It's not in bad condition. Roberta's contaminated, picks something up off the ground, meets with those guys on that road and is digging through it, handing it to them, and they're touching it too, like Caesar said. So
I'm not like fully convinced, but I'll watch the video and see what you're saying, because Brian Enton hasn't made any statements like that, and I feel like if
Oh,
that
no,
happened,
I know. I heard what he said too, and I like Brian too. So I'm going, yeah. But what was told to him tonight, and was it different officers there tonight with their spin on it? I mean, I don't know how people are and process information, but they're saying Chris, blah blah blah. Nope, because Mr. Wallace was right there and talking with the guy, and then they enter. You know, he's on there on the show with this other man and Mr. Didi Ron, whoever he is. He's another ex-PD. But the thing is what he said, I think will make a big impact on you versus what you heard. And I believe what Brian said was said to him.
I have a hard time though listening to people who weren't there, and it's like third party. Like I don't, because you can't listen. I've spent a lot of time in education as far as getting advanced degrees and things like that. It's like you
Yeah.
can't use any sources like that ever. So
Well, I agree.
that's where I'm like, I don't know. I want to hear the FBI agent say that himself. I can't go off of what a retired NYPD agent who worked at a New York City Police Department agent heard from an FBI agent in Florida. Like, to me, it's like,
That's why you got to listen to it, because him talking to the man there that was on the scene.
I'm not easily convinced, but I will definitely listen to it.
Right. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you,
Anyway.
Lacey, for calling in.
You got it. And God bless you, man. Get well. You got to
Thank
stay
you.
here. We want you. We
Okay,
need you.
thank you. Your support means a lot. I know you're a big supporter of the Feller fam and what we do here, so thank you so much.
I love your show, and I love everybody that you've had on. They're awesome.
Thank you.
You have a great evening. God bless you. Good night.
Good night. Maria, thank you for the super chat. You said God's always protecting you. He knows exactly what it's doing. So yeah, I trust the Lord for sure. Mike account says, I'm not convinced having a closed mind will help in this case. Okay. I hear you. Okay. Tammy, great to see you, Tammy. I don't know if we saw you yet today in any of the streams, but it's great to see you on here tonight. It means a lot. And I like what Peter's saying, by the way, who is an NYPD agent or NYPD, retired NYPD. It's like the telephone game. That's the point that I'm trying to make on it. It's like, once it's that far removed, it's like there's a thing called eyewitness account, first person account, primary source. Those things are different. Taboo, how are you? Are you there?
Hi, Taylor. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We just got a
Can you hear
super
me?
chat from Paul. I want to read it.
Awesome.
It says, there's a connection, parental retrieval of Brian Laundrie's car, and they're later returned to the site today. Did they know he was there, but unable to go in because H2O? So Paul, thank you for the super chat. That's sort of like the conversation that's happening. Like they kind of thought that he was in that area, but because of the water and some of the other situations, they weren't able to handle it. So very interesting. Thank you for the super chat. Somebody saying exactly. Taboo, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on the show. Hope everyone's doing all right.
What are your thoughts today?
My thoughts are that I think the whole like stage planting thing is kind of outrageous. I see it so simply, like I can see Brian just giving up on life and, being alone and lying to his parents and just trying to escape it all.
Yeah. Agree. I mean, that's certainly what the former FBI agent that was interviewed on WFLA said today too. Same thing.
I mean, if it is him, then we're going to have more questions on how,
right?
And how long it's been.
Yeah.
Was there a gun involved? If there was, then that's, raises red flags for the two girls in Moab. So, yeah, I feel like there's more questions after this. There's never enough answers.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you calling in. Thank you for your insight.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Patricia says handling evidence breaks the chain of custody. That's general info, but isn't there a video of Chris finding the bag? There is a video of Chris finding the bag, but all the official media, Brian Inton and others are saying that was just like, showed you just a portion of what you saw, like here and here, right there and there. There's Roberta and Christopher, and on the other side are the police officers, and they were in there together. So it's you can't just go off of a photo because it's not a 360 view of the situation. Fun size lady, how are you?
Hi, first of all, please tell me you can hear me this time.
I can hear you.
Oh, thank goodness. Yeah, matter of perspective as far as camera angles go on what you were just talking about.
Uh-huh.
The video of his dad finding the bag.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I had a lot of thoughts. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of on the same mindset as you, I think, Tyler. I don't know what to think right now.
I just want to be really careful about how we're handling it, and because, like, on one perspective, I'm all in on, like, yeah, there's some shadiness that's been happening from the Laundrie family that I keep
Same.
repeating about whenever their son came home without Gabby, and then they refused to have any conversations. On the other hand, I feel a ton of sympathy for a family that maybe really thought that their son could have been alive and wasn't alive, or knew that he probably wasn't alive this whole time but was waiting to find evidence. So I have incredible sympathy for them. So
Yeah.
again, really difficult, complex sort of way to think about things. And so I'm just like, I just want to know the DNA. They're saying now it could be several days or it could be a quick find. I hope it ends up being a quick find on
I do
the
too. Because that's, I mean, first of all, let's first talk about both sides of the family.
Yes.
Brian's family and Gabby's family, of course, for sure.
Yes.
Everybody's been waiting long enough. And another thought I had, this is kind of going back a little bit, but the coroner, Dr. Blue, I think was his name.
Yeah, Dr. Brent Blue.
He said that, they did a toxicology, and I've heard a few people, one or two tonight, talk about this, where if they say, they can't answer it or can't confirm or deny or whatever, it usually means yes. That's how he answered the toxicology question that someone asked about what the findings were on that.
I noticed that as well.
So it kind of makes me, I don't know, this is just a thought that popped in my head a while ago. Could Brian have drugged her before he strangled her? Who knows?
Or both of them could have been involved recreationally in that sort of thing too. We don't know.
That's true.
Kim sent a super chat in. She said she's thinking, if body not Brian's bag won't matter, will it? Like, if the body's not Brian's, then the bag won't matter.
True.
Correct, Kim. And then she said it's not part of the GB crime, so not really evidence. Would just help confirm Brian was there. But if DNA doesn't match, will it matter? I mean, you're thinking down the right path, Kim. It's like that DNA, the DNA, all of it matters intensely right now. The level is turned up. And imagine the pressure that the coroner and the medical examiners are feeling right now. All of the eyes on the nation are on them to try to reveal this, and hopefully in a quick manner. And again, there's so many little nuances of what it could possibly be. So we got a lot to find out. So
also on what Diane was, Diane is awesome, just like everybody else says. She's down. She's got something. I mean, her discussion made me think a lot about the fact that yesterday they went to the FedEx store, which you can have, Diane said you can have mailboxes there.
Yeah.
And they went to the bank and the AT&T store. And She even said, Diane even said that someone could have met them at the FedEx store. Maybe they've had some of his stuff in this mailbox all this time for use for later. Who knows? And someone else mentioned they heard that someone called the parents last night saying, "Hey, I ran across this stuff." It could have been someone calling and saying, "Hey, I found some what looked like remains." And then they could have went and got the stuff at the FedEx or gave it to them. And, I mean, there's all kinds of things that it could have been. But again, all speculation. And we won't really know. What matters right now is finding out whose DNA it is.
Mm-hmm. It's DNA. For me, it's like I'm going to be very careful about how I approach certain subjects until the DNA comes out. But I'm going to be willing to look at the facts, try to draw up some maps and all of that information. Hey, I appreciate you calling in, fun size lady.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'll be praying for your health, Tyler.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Chris.
Hey, Tyler.
You know what? The theory that you're Brian Laundrie is officially over.
Finally, I let off the hook. There won't be U.S. Marshals banging down my door tonight, I guess.
You know what, though? I appreciate that we have people that try to think really deeply about all different angles. And so that included my own suspicions of you for a second.
And thank you for unmuting me. And we talked a little bit last night. I was a little bit blown back by when you told me people thought I was Brian. I'm like, whoa, okay. I'm not that handsome.
We have a super chat from Anna Yeli Soto, who says, today's our wedding anniversary. Happy anniversary. But we can't celebrate 100% after the sad news, thinking Brian might be dead. And we don't really know what happened. Well, thank you for celebrating your anniversary with us. And we just celebrate you to have 27 more happy years. We're going to get 3 to 30. And thank you for being on here. Well, Chris, what are your thoughts today?
Well, first off, happy anniversary to that person.
Happy anniversary.
I guess what I was calling is there's kind of like what drew me to this case, and I'm not going to be liked much because I've heard people wrote me some kind of vile things here, but
there's been my life currently. It's just it's just a part of it.
Join the club, yes. But one of the things is that it's just this. I've defended the Laundrie families and to an extent, even Brian. Because there's been this mob mentality with the Laundries that everybody's just going at them, and crazy off the wall conspiracies like the Laundries having a Cold War James Bond villain style bunker underneath their house, is pretty wildly accepted by a lot of people. Maybe not the majority, but I just seen this mob mentality towards the Laundries, and it's key to note the family we know for a fact didn't kill Gabby, and yet they're being treated like they did. And today it shows they weren't lying to the FBI or the police. They were telling the truth this whole time. They weren't hiding them. Now what they know, I don't know, and nobody really knows. And I guess it feels like everybody. I guess, can I tell a personal story here for a second?
There's people waiting, so yes, if you make it fast.
All right, very quickly here. 2 years ago, I was married to the love of my life, and I found out she was having an affair. And in order to save face, she started telling people I abused her. I was domestic violence. And once you're accused of something like that, even though I never touched her, there's nothing you can do as a man.
I hate that. I know.
To come out. Now, I do believe the majority of people who come out and say they've been abused really are. I'm that very small percentage. But I just remember it was such a I was in so much hurt, to find out my wife was having an affair. And then on top of that, everybody was treating me and thinking I was a monster. And I see that with the Laundrie's parents, is that everybody's treating them like monsters. And it's kind of unfair because they're probably going through amazing hurt right now. Their son is dead, and then you have people sending them death threats outside, screaming vile stuff at them 24/7. And I can just only imagine that it's like they you know they were listening to their lawyer's advice, and maybe it was wrong advice for them to stay quiet, but they're just being attacked and attacked and attacked, and people follow them to the store and scream vile things at them, that my heart goes out to them. I know that people are going to say, well, what about Gabby's parents? But it sounded today from that CNN interview, they wanted to talk to them, but their lawyer advised them not to. And I guess, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think people should be treated with decency, even if they're not a decent human. That's the way I view the world in general.
Exactly.
So, but I don't have enough information about any of the particulars because nobody has that information. The thing that's fishy to me about the Laundries and why so many other people are riled up is the simple fact that Brian was at home with them and the Petito family was seeking answers and they refused to give it to them. And that means that the lawyer who's telling now on CNN earlier today that he told them not to say, that he was involved in this case from longer ago than the Petito family even started to call and ask about information. And that's a big red flag for me. I wish none of this on them. I wish people wouldn't fall around the store and, be very difficult towards them. But at the same time, it's like, I understand why people are upset because they did things that enrage people.
And that's true. We don't know what Brian told them, though. We just know that the Petitos called them on the 10th. And maybe that's when they were like, whoa, what happened? And called their lawyer at this time, because what else would you do if you found out your son's fiance or girlfriend is missing and the parents are calling you? Or even, let's just say, Brian told them, yeah, we got in a heated fight and unfortunately I killed her. What would be the first thing you should do? The first thing you should do is call your lawyer. And that goes in any case. Even if you got a speeding ticket, you should talk to your lawyer before talking to the police. And maybe they listened to their lawyer too much. Maybe they should have. But we don't have playbooks or hand guides to what we do when your son's girlfriend or fiance is missing, or she or is dead.
Thank you, Chris, for calling in.
Thank you.
Avery says, I'm curious, since the news this morning, are the protesters still outside the Laundrie? So, Avery, I saw one video of outside the Laundrie household, and I did not see any protesters. However, I don't know if protesters were out there 24/7. It showed the Laundrie household, and literally nobody was there except for the news media. And they were just saying, like, hey, Roberta and Christopher have been home since before the press conference. This made me laugh when I saw this comment. P&W Jeep Girl. By the way, Avery, thank you for the super chat. P&W Jeep Girl says, Tyler, I hope it is him. I need to stop geeking out on your YouTube channel every day and do some of my own dirty laundry. LOL. With kindness and respects to all involved in this. I really thought that was a funny statement. I've been getting so many emails that it's like my email doesn't get emails, and then all of a sudden I'll get a bunch of them at one time. So I want to shout out Lisa. Thank you, Lisa, for getting 2 copies of the Don't Stop book. And thank you, Elizabeth Stevenson and Deanna and Sandra, all for picking up the Don't Stop book today. And several of you guys have ordered Don't Stop hoodies. I hope they come into you soon. I know some of them are starting to ship out, and that's really awesome. Also, Dakota, who won the Campfire mug. I don't think you've reached out to us yet. You won the Feller Fam Campfire mug. And so if you don't mind reaching out to us, that would be really great. I want some information from you so we can send that out to you. And then I wanted to show you guys this video that Carol just sent me. This is talking about the Laundrie findings today? Is the case over? Sort of what's the next maneuver?
Reserve medical
I'm going to make it
examiner
big.
called to the scene, as well as cadaver dogs. A local canine unit had been at the reserve earlier this month to assist law enforcement searching for Brian. So the question, of course, is how were they not able to find this earlier? Joining me now to talk more about the search is canine handler and former police officer Kyle Hayen. Thanks very much for coming on the program. Appreciate it. So talk to me about the way that cadaver dogs work. I mean, if they had cadaver dogs out there a month ago in this basic area, even if there was water there, would the dogs have been able to find the body?
Thank you for having me. And if the body had been there when they went by with cadaver dogs, and the body had been there for more than 2 or 3 minutes, the odor would have come through the water, and yes, they should have been able to locate that body.
So just to be clear, cadaver dogs can sniff out a body even if it's underwater.
That's correct.
Just quickly, take us through the training that these dogs go through, because I think that some people don't realize that this is different from the way that other police canines are trained.
It is. And there's a couple of different ways of doing it. The methodology that I trained with was you actually use human parts in training the dog. So you bury parts of a human, could have been medical surgery. You let them deteriorate. When I was in Germany doing some training, opened a freezer one time and I looked at all sorts of human parts, not breakfast. So close the door, off we go. But that's what you have to do with a cadaver dog. Is you are using human parts. It can't be necessarily from a medical hospital all the time that treats cancer, because you're training a cancer dog and not a human cadaver dog.
So let me ask you this.
Yes.
Knowing what you know, as you do, I mean, you know exactly how these dogs work, what they can find, what they can't find. Does this make sense to you that the cadaver dogs were out there previously and they didn't find anything, and now the family, the parents of Brian Laundrie, go with the authorities to the scene today, and they're almost immediately able to find his personal items and his remains?
It's highly suspicious. If the body was there at that time, X weeks ago, and if it's the same dog and the same quality of dog or same quality of training, yeah, they should have found it. They would have detected Landry's body.
So the question, of course, now becomes maybe he was still alive at that time. I mean, you have to, if you have the faith in the dogs that you do, you have to believe then that at the time the dogs were there, if they were in this same area, then he wasn't dead at that time, assuming this is his body.
Assuming that it's his body, and it's a lot of things falling into place all at one time. And it's kind of hard for me to swallow. Gee, the parents go there. Gee, they find all this stuff that's supposedly been out there for weeks, and a human body. So, or parts of a human body. So it's, if the dogs are well trained, well maintained, and we're in that area, then yeah, they should have smelled the odor of the human.
Right. All right, Kyle, thank you so much for coming on the show. This is very important insight as we...
Scott, are you there?
I am here, yes.
So what do you think about that?
I think it's all pretty interesting. As far as the dogs, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
I think the dogs definitely would have found them, but I mean, there's always a chance they didn't. So I think either way, if it is Brian's body, we should all be praying for the Laundries.
For sure.
Um,
For sure. For
whether
sure.
whether they were involved or whether they weren't involved, we should still be praying for that family.
Jane sends a
And
super chat. Thank you, Jane, for the super chat. She says, "My brain is telling me they have found Brian, but if it isn't, Brian has a break for a getaway." Thank you, Jane.
that's actually my comment. So I think it's probably a 90 to 95% chance that it is Brian's remains. However, there's a chance that it's not. And I think if it's not, I think it would be really interesting if he had actually either killed an animal or killed someone else, left his backpack and notebook at the scene where they found the remains, planted those remains there, and then now there's a plot twist because now he just bought himself, a few extra days or weeks head start to get away to get somewhere else. And I just
Yes.
wanted to see what you thought about that.
Well, I'm with you on the 99% or whatever. Like I don't know if I'm that high. I'm more like 98% probably. I think it's probably Brian. There's a chance in my mind that it's going to come back completely somebody else's DNA, or so far gone that we can't determine whose it is. Possibly, I don't know how it all works or whatever, right? And if that's the case, then golly, there's going to be 20,000 people on this stream tomorrow night if they announce that, us trying to figure out what the heck's going on together. And then, imagine how many protesters and people are going to be following around the Laundrie family if that happens.
But I don't really think they're involved. I know I know they've acted weird, and I know there's a lot of decisions that they've made that are unusual, I guess. But I don't think they're really too involved with Brian. And if they did lose a son today, no matter what level of involvement they were in, it's still awful to lose a child. So
if they lost a son today, I'm heartbroken for them in that regard.
But I think it's awful how people have been treating them. Even though, like I said, there have been some unusual decisions that they've made, but they weren't the ones that killed Gabby, and I think people should leave them alone until more evidence comes out.
Absolutely, Scott. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Avery said, "Yo, we all need therapy before it's over." Just kidding. Wow. Pamela says this: could it come back without any DNA at all because it was so little that was found? I don't know the exact answer to that. Possibly, possibly not. I think you can find DNA in even the tiniest thing. Like from what I've understood about DNA research, you can find it. You can find DNA in literally like the smallest little thing that you can find. Lisa says, why hasn't Cassie been around her parents? They said, Stephen Bertolino said he told the parents not to talk to Cassie. So that's why Cassie hasn't been involved in this at all. I don't understand that situation, but Jen says, will you end us in prayer tonight? I will. I'll pray for the whole situation tonight for sure before we end up. Murray, thank you for the super chat. You say Brian Laundrie died recently, not weeks ago. That was sort of the thought, right? That previous video that I just played was saying. Southern Gal Jen says, to find out if it's his DNA, won't they have to ask the parents for DNA? Well, they already have samples of the parents' DNA, and I believe they already have samples of his DNA too. So I don't necessarily think so, but again, I'm not a DNA expert, and I wish we had a DNA expert on the call today. Silent Murmur says, if Laundries have family in the Carlton coroner's office, how lucky for them. I think that they would have to, like, this is pretty complex in my opinion. Like, I think they would have to bring in some extra help. I don't know that for sure, but I'm thinking they might have to bring in some extra help. So Jinby's confirming it. They've already obtained the DNA. So exactly what I was saying. Exactly what I was thinking. Elizabeth says this: What if Gabby had never been found because the Laundries didn't talk? I know. If it had not been for Red, White, and Bethune. By the way, Popcorn Planet reached out to me today and asked if I do a collaboration sort of video with Red, White, and Bethune. Popcorn Planet. Let me see. I'm gonna go read the text that Andy sent me earlier and just see what it says. Popcorn Planet, Ikidmel, me, Red, White, and Bethune. Some type of collaboration within the next couple days. I'll let you guys know when it might be next week. I'm not really sure, but I told them, yeah, like, it's going to be 100% for a DV shelter in Tampa. So excited about the opportunity to partner with other people that have been trying to shed some light on this situation. I'm going to be on Grizzly True Crime on Friday on her live episode, and so I'd appreciate if you guys want to go check out Grizzly's page and do that. So just there's a lot, guys, that we've been through to, like, collectively, that we've been through together. And the Jeep girl saying, yo, I missed the attorney interview on CNN. Can you give a quick update? Essentially, the interview was like, how come whenever the Petitos were asking you where Brian or where Gabby was at and Brian was home, you guys weren't saying anything? And then Bertolino said, because I told them not to. And so that's what they were saying. Minestina, Casey, and Thor. Minestina. If the Laundries had wronged the cops the day before he left their house, he would be in jail, but still alive. Guys, if you want to call in, there's a link at the top that's pinned in the chat. You can go ahead and just click on that if you guys want to join the call. If the Laundries had wronged the cops the day he left their house, he would be in jail, but still alive. Exactly. That's sort of what I'm thinking. Like, I wish they would have done a better job keeping an eye on him. Honestly, it's unfortunate. If this turns out to be his body, it's a really unfortunate situation for sure. I read a statement that that Dog the Bounty Hunter sent to me today, and basically he was saying, listen, guys, we have a lot of questions and we're going to address those questions, but right now it's a time for us to pray for people who need prayer in this situation.
For people who need prayer.
Bob, how are you? There's an echo.
Good. How are you, Tyler?
I'm doing well. So what are your thoughts today?
Okay, I've heard 3 times now that the Laundries have a nephew on the police force where they live. And this just all seems kind of suspicious. All the news reporters said that them going into the woods today was a very quick thing when they found Brian's body. And here they've had multiple searchers in there for how many weeks now, every day looking, cadaver dogs and all of that. It's just too suspicious. It really is. It makes me wonder if it's even Brian's body, or if it wasn't planted there.
Fun Size Lady asked the question, can cadaver dogs smell bones? Yeah, they can. They're trained to smell bones. They're trained to smell tissue. They're trained to smell blood. They can detect human remains at a variety of different levels. And so to answer,
right, even underwater.
Some of them are trained for underwater, right? But the thing about underwater, like, the water moves. Leary Donna says, Tyler, the body remains are Brian. I'm confident this is coming out of Super Spirits Anointing. I'm curious if God spoke to you about this. Well, I haven't had a download from heaven on this. I really feel like the role that God has me playing in this is facilitating these conversations and just being a safe place for people to process together. So thank you for your super chat, though. Bob, what do you think? Like, where's your mind and heart at?
Well, my main concern is the Petito family and the Schmidt family. It's like I would have wanted them to had some kind of closure on, what happened to Gabby and stuff, and it just doesn't seem like they're going to get it if that really is his body. And I'm sorry, it just seems too odd. They've never joined the search. The father did, but nothing came of it. And all of a sudden the mother and father did today. And all of a sudden they instantly fall upon, Brian's body. That's just too weird to me. It's just very weird. I don't know. It's kind of hard to trust. You never know what is in the minds and hearts of people,
there's eyes on the Laundrie family at all times. So they would have had to orchestrate somebody else to be out. You know what I
Right.
mean?
And that's where hearing that their nephew is a policeman, it just, I don't know. He's one that could get away with doing things
I
because
don't
he's
know
on
if
the
their
force.
nephew's a policeman or not. And before it was like he's a policeman in Long Island. Now he's a policeman in Northport. They,
Okay.
to my knowledge, they don't have any family in Northport because they're from Long Island. So I don't know about. There's no, and we've tried to research their family, and
Okay.
I have reports of a lot of who their family is, and I don't know. I can't get on that train with you. And even if it was, like, it's so
Yeah.
speculative, dude. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a hard thing to comprehend with all of that, but it just seemed weird, but we'll know soon enough whether it is or not.
We'll know when 1 to 2 to many days from now. Thank you, Bob, for calling in.
Thank you, Tyler. How you feeling? You feeling better?
Not quite yet, but I'm praying that I will start feeling better soon.
Yeah, I pray for you every day, brother.
Thank you for asking too.
All right. Have a good one, brother.
Bye. Shelly, how are you?
Every day, brother. Thank you.
There's a big echo when she's calling in. Larry Donna, thank you again for the super chat and for the support. Today for the Feller fam, we've had several people join: Patty and Carol, Marissa, Jessica, Dawn, Pamela, Kathy, and Golden Fire. And it's really cool for the Feller fam. We have a Facebook group that is specifically for Feller fam members, and we had a lot of great. It just opened yesterday. It's not even listed in the perks of joining, but it just opened yesterday and last night, and it's already been such a great wealth of conversation. And so if you're part of the Feller fam and you're not on there, go to the membership section of YouTube and get in that group with us. And then on Saturday, anybody who's at the producer or investor level or higher, we're going to be having a private screening, like a private call just for us. And I'm really looking forward to that. So make sure you guys are putting that on your calendar as well. Definitely interested in hearing viewpoints about this. And I want to shout out Jane White, who just had 2 Don't Stop orders of the book. Thank you for purchasing the book. I really think it's a book that's going to lead to a lot of breakthrough for a lot of people. Thank you, Jane. Chris says, if Brian was 40, would we still be blaming the parents? He's a grown adult, and so was Gabby. I think we're involving the parents too much in this. They were adults, but they're young adults. I know there's a problem in our culture where people are prolonging their adolescence until they're like 25, 26. So to that regard, very interesting. But you do make a point, like, these are not teenagers that we're talking about. DCL family, how are you? You're muted if you're on here. DCL family, are you there? Jane says, I'm looking forward to reading and sharing a copy. Yeah, well, thank you so much. I'm excited about it. DCL family called in but was muted. They're back. DCL, are you there? I don't know what's going on with them. So hopefully whenever people call in, if Shelly calls back in, I'll put her back in too. She had her TV on, and it's hard for me to know what's going on in those situations. It's like when there's a big echo, it's like, and especially when there's a big echo and I talk and you can hear it going on in the background, then it's hard to figure out what's going on. I wanted to take a second too and just show you guys, and I know some of you guys have seen it, but if you go to my website, just some different things that you can see on there if you're interested. We have the Don't Stop book that comes out on November 16th, which is just around the corner. And then we have some merch if you're interested in it. On the merch, we have Feller Fam merch, Don't Stop merch, all different kinds of merch, like literally all different kinds of apparel for men, women, even accessories if you're into like mugs and cups and dog things and aprons and buttons and pillow throws and stickers, like all kinds of cool stuff. So if you're interested in any of that, you can go to tellerfellow.com/merch if you want the hookup on that. Shelly, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. How are you doing,
Sorry
Tyler?
about like it just seems like sometimes when you call in it's not working, but I do appreciate when you call in.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me on. This one was totally my fault. I
Okay.
was reaching for my remote to pause, turn off the TV, and it, yeah. But thanks for having me on.
Sure.
Today's been a long day.
Yeah.
Haven't, isn't this your third time?
Yeah, but the one of the streams really was just us watching the press release and then me and
Yeah.
Kim saying, "Well, we don't know how to process this."
Right. But we were there together and I watched it with you and it's been good to be part of the Beller fam. I guess my concerns, I have two different ones, but the concern about where the family was like, I don't know how to say it, tipped off last night. Um, or how I was wondering about that phone. They went by, it was an AT&T store.
Yeah, Brian Hinton today in the interview said we have no idea what they did in the AT&T store. They were in there for 20 minutes and came out. We have no idea if they bought something, if they had a conversation. We have no idea. So that one's a
Oh, wow.
hard that's a hard one.
Yeah, because my mind was going through if they were having trouble pinging his last. Of course, the phone battery will be dead, but they could still show the last ping. Well, would they need them to come down to talk to them in person to show them or work through that? Wouldn't that be something they could send through the computer or work through the phone for them to gather that evidence and then go forward with the FBI and say we want to be, if I don't know what kind of contact they had, but I think I'm trying to trace this through my brain, and also give the Laundries a level of respect, just as humans. Losing a son, no matter how it happened, is heart wrenching. And I know I've been frustrated with them that they didn't give some information, and I can see some people really want to stay away from the media. It's
Mhm.
been hard for me, but I've switched. I mean, I've always had a little bit of that on both sides of my thinking. Of
Me too. And if you remember Shelly, because you've been with us for the long haul, I've been building out like that timeline that
Mhm.
was just Gabby. I built out a timeline that included Kylan and Crystal. And that's sort
Right.
of just the way that I think. It's like we have things we know are facts, and then what are the things around it? So I have a pathway where it's like the Laundries are super involved, and another pathway where they're not involved at all. That's just the way my brain works. It's like there's facts around both sides to make enough evidence into it. The only thing that sticks out to me, and I've said it so many times tonight, it's like if I'm the Petito Schmidt family,
Mhm.
it's hard for me to overlook the fact that I had to call 911 over 40 times because they were refusing to answer my call. And then I find out that their son is home in my daughter's vehicle, which, by the way, was
Yeah.
towed back, hopefully, to Long Island today. We got a lot of pictures coming. I got a lot of pictures coming in today of that van being towed, the camper van being towed north.
Good. Yeah. So where did you come up with the number 40? Because I was looking back at the dates when you were on earlier. I decided that I wanted to check and see which day did they begin calling. And then I also saw, I don't know if you even caught this since you've been on so much, another station reported, and I think it was today, surely it wasn't yesterday, but they reported Gabby's father apologizing
The
to
records show that there were 46 911 calls between September 10th and 27th about the Laundrie family.
46. Wow. Okay, what dates are they? I mean, don't they start like on the 10th?
Yeah.
Okay. So he was in the home. We know because they went to the door. Right. Well, they didn't say he was home. I'm trying to think back because it's been a while, but I was wondering how many days Brian was there before.
I went over that timeline a bit
Yeah,
earlier. So September
4
14th,
days?
Brian is allegedly last seen. I think they then changed it to September 13th, but originally it was
13,
September 14th. They did not
13,
file a missing
11,
person
12.
report until the 17th.
Still the, yeah. And I was thinking that when all of this was blowing up, because wasn't Gabby's mom working hard to get a missing persons report out, and it was delayed, and she worked with many people and then found one that really helped?
She had a great detective from Suffolk County that was working with her. She filed a missing person report on September 11th. She started getting worried, especially on September 10th, because she felt like too much time had passed around.
Okay.
So it wasn't, I don't think she had difficulty with it.
Okay. Okay. That part I don't know why that's in my brain, so I'm gonna sweep that part out. But I did hear she had a great detective, and it's nice to seem like, they didn't really struggle to find the right one that would believe them.
Right.
So I'm trying to see how much time we had. Well, obviously we lost a lot of time because he came home on the 1st. But when this is beginning to really blow up, he was only at the house 3 days when he was kind of under surveillance. Is that what you're coming up with?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That,
He was home longer than that, but he wasn't under surveillance until September 10th or probably 11th, but around
yeah,
September
yeah.
10th was the first 911 call. Really under surveillance September 11th, last seen on
Right.
September was 14th, then became 13th. And I
The
heard
13th.
Joshua Taylor, who's the spokesperson for Northport Police, say in an interview that it wasn't an interview with Brian, and it was with a different organization, that they had eyes on him when he was going into the Carlton Reserve. So that's part of the reason why they were
Oh,
searching.
okay. Well, uh, I guess we go from here, right? I mean,
That's why I'm saying the
w
search for Brian Laundrie may have ended, but the search for answers really has just begun.
right, right. And all of I had sent you something. This is just a side note. I won't take up too much of your time. Of Panama, the country of Panama, how many expats, and I knew you probably wouldn't have a chance to get to email.
I
And
saw your
part of
email.
it,
I skimmed it, but I didn't have a chance to respond
did
or
you see
anything.
that it said Telemundo?
I didn't see.
Okay. My idea was getting in touch with Telemundo, since so many the Spanish speaking population all the way through Mexico and Central America, almost everyone watches Telemundo,
So if the
so that's,
DNA doesn't come back as Brian, then that's the route, right? But
yeah, I guess
at this
I
point, ain't
guess I
nobody
have
gonna
a
take that
backup.
from us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that would be what, only half of a 1% that it's not. I mean, I would say we're all pretty sure if they
I don't think so. Judging off of
really
what the chat is saying, like what the polls were saying that I put earlier, like
see it.
that's not the case at all.
Oh, I missed a section there. Well, with this backpack and uh, but I guess they're different.
We have a
I
lot of
want
skeptics in our group, rightfully so, after the twists and turns
sure,
we've been down the past couple weeks.
right, right, and I'll just not say too much. I mean, I have different thoughts in different areas but I don't want to take up your call too long. And I guess my last thing, and I may have already said it, is that I have more. Oh, I did say more compassion. I know I'm supposed to have that for others, love others, and even your enemies. I I know that, and I try to, but I realize that there are many, many times when I begin to get angry or frustrated, and then that spirals, that that I don't handle my feelings the way that I would have if it when it gets emotional, it's just harder, you know. So that may be part of what our entire community, our family, is just part of what we process through.
I think so.
I wonder if some people will not reach a place of having some kind of compassion just over the death of their son.
Only
What do
time will
you?
tell.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Thank you for calling in tonight, Shelly.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. You have a blessed evening, and I want you to get some rest, okay?
Okay, I will. I will.
All righty. Take care.
Bye. I'm really not as tired as I look, by the way. I think some of my restrictive blood flow issues are causing me to look more tired than what I really am. So, Jenny, thank you so much for the super chat that you sent in. I'm really appreciative of that. And I want to tell you guys this too. I have a passion and really a calling over my life to pray for people who need healing specifically. I pray for people about all kinds of stuff, but I really believe that God can heal people. I've seen God heal incredible things. I've been helping with a movie called Sin Proof that just came out, sinproof.com, that highlights medical verification of if miracles are possible. And I believe in miracles and I believe in healing. So in order for me to keep track of these, if you guys can put the word prayer in the subject line or prayer request in the subject line and email me at press@tylerfeller.com, it really helps me. If I get enough prayer requests coming in, I think I'm going to make just a prayer@tylerfeller.com email, but I don't have that yet. But if you guys want prayer, send me a prayer a request with press@tylerfeller.com, and in the subject line, put prayer. I'm going to pray for us because we've been through a lot today. So let's pray. Thank you, Father. We love you, Jesus, that we can call on you, count on you, trust in you, hope in you. Help us lift our eyes into heaven. And Lord, I pray that you just surround everybody who needs your protection and your love tonight. And we just pray specifically to you. You're with the Petito Schmidt family, that you're surrounding them with your compassion and your love for them. They're smiling upon them, Lord. I even pray that you're with the Laundrie family, that they sense you and they sense your Holy Spirit and they sense your compassion and love for them. That the same Jesus that died a death on a cross for me is the same Jesus that died a death on a cross for them. And I pray, Lord, they feel that tonight. We pray for Kylan and Crystal's families, Lord, that they see you and hear you and know you and just feel your presence and love. And I pray for anyone in the chat dealing with any kind of struggle that only you can lead a breakthrough for. We pray breakthrough right now for them. We speak healing over their body and we declare by your stripes and by your wounds, they're healed in Jesus' name. Say it with me in the chat. Amen. Amen, amen, amen. True Helper, how are you?
I am well, thank you.
Thanks for calling in.
Well, thank you for having me. I wanted to say thank you for your cool, calm, and collected approach to this most horrid of situations. And I also thank you for having me as a moderator.
Yeah, I added you today off of recommendation, and I saw the work you were doing. I just really appreciate it. And I appreciate Jen B too. She does such a great job, and Simple Envy, and really all the moderators we have do a great job.
Yes, I agree. I agree. And I really would, if I had one wish, it would be if everyone could just exercise a little bit of patience, compassion, and empathy towards both families. No one knows exactly that type of feeling. To imagine that your families have been torn apart, not to mention the media circus and all of the nasty things that have come out of the situation. It is really horrible from every angle, and my heart goes out to them. But God is great, and all will be as God wills it. I truly believe in that. And I know that if we all but just take a little bit of time and try to exercise a little bit of forgiveness and just try to understand and put ourselves in their shoes to understand exactly the types of pain that they are going through, maybe that would make us all much better. And what a better world we would live in.
Nothing about this situation is normal for anybody.
Oh, I agree. I agree. I came in pretty late to all of this, but in the past week and a half that I've really been following it, it really has blown me away. And as a father myself, I could not imagine what they must be going through on both sides.
Yeah, me neither. My heart breaks.
Well, I appreciate you having me. I don't want to keep it short. And you
Thank you
have
for calling
yourself.
in.
And thank you for having me. And may God bless you and God bless everybody in chat.
Yep. Amen. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right, guys. I'll be back tomorrow around 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time Zone. Feel free to join us. Thank you for being on here tonight.